Greetings, you sexy pop culture junkies, and welcome to Raw Rant, where the truth may not set you free, but at the very least, it may open your eyes and hopefully entertain the hell out of you. We're here hanging out with some of our rowdy friends to stimulate your brain with all the exciting topics floating around the pop culture zeitgeist. Welcome to the show. I'm Shane Montgomery, and with me always is on the boards is my brother and life partner, Brian Montgomery. And joining us on Raw Rant is a man who certainly needs no introduction, a drinker who is really a thinker and makes damn good videos, the Critical Drinker.
Hey, gentlemen, how's it going? It's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. We need a soundtrack, Brian. We need the clapping.
I'm working on it.
It's all right. We'll patiently wait. We'll sit in awkward silence till you find it.
Also joining us from a land down under with all the best Star Trek breakdowns, Nick from Sci-Finatics.
Hey guys, thanks for having me on the show. Cheers.
There you go. There's the clapping. And last but not least, if your diet is low in sodium and you're looking for someone to conquer Las Vegas with, Alex from the Salty Nerd Podcast.
Cheers, everybody. I succumbed to peer pressure and I had to grab myself a beer. I was like, I'm with Critical Drinker. I need to do it.
Our stream tonight is covering half of the planet and everywhere from across the pond to Australia and here in the United States. And glad to have you guys here to explore season 3 of Picard as well as some other Star Trek news. Thank you for everybody who joined us tonight. We're glad to have you here. Drinker, how's things going in your neck of the woods?
Yeah, I'm hanging in there. What can I say? I'm enjoying myself. I just got back from a Comic-Con in Atlanta, so that was great fun. I'm still readjusting to being back in Scotland and the horrifying reality that, yes, I am in fact Scottish. So, that's still working on that.
No offense, Nick. No offense, Nick, but he has the best accent. If you're in America.
Yeah, we don't have a accent. Hey, super chat from Shake from the Hunger Team. I love that show. What's up, Drinker? And the rest of the crew have a drink on me. $30. Thank you, Shake.
Thanks, man. Thank you.
Nick, I know you are having coffee, so it's early morning there for you.
It's early morning. Yes. Good. I just had a coffee and a cookie, so I'm all sugared up and caffeinated up and ready to go.
Excellent. And Alex, how's it in middle afternoon Vegas?
Doing great. I had a very productive day today, so I'm feeling good. I'm really happy to be here. Thanks for the invite, as always.
I did zero productive things today. and when I heard Critical Drinker was coming on, I went and got some Jim Beam.
Well, that was productive, so you should feel proud of that.
So
perfect.
This is where my day is going, everyone. And I'm really sick, so the fact that I'm here is outstanding.
Well, hopefully everybody's enjoying season 3 of Picard. It's been our favorite topic to talk about here on Raw Rant each week. We've been lucky to have some really great takes from everybody. I know that we're only at episode 3, and we've had the opportunity we can't exactly say where it's come from or how we know this, but Critical Drinker had a chance to get a look at the series in advance, and he had a really great take on it. And I think part of his discussion and communication is kind of what opened the eyes up to a lot of people who had kind of canceled out on Star Trek. They were done with it. No more Discovery, no more Picard seasons 1 and 2. And just before we kind of get started on how things are going, Drinker, I wanted to ask you, what was it? Because you've been pretty, pretty hard on Star Trek so far, since 2017.
Yeah. Oh, I've torn that series a new one. Yeah.
What was it that changed your mind for this season without giving away any spoilers?
It was mostly Robert Meyer Burnett. It was him and Dave Cullen, basically. In the months leading up to this series, I guess Rob's quite well connected in the industry, and he kept saying all this positive stuff about it. This is going to change people's minds. This is going to turn Star Trek around. It's a completely different team of people working on it. And, I wanted to believe him. There was a part of me that was just like, yeah, I'm not sure, man. Like, maybe you're just being a bit too kind to it or a bit too optimistic. But, there'd been no one that had been harsher on current day Star Trek than Rob. Like, he genuinely had a lot of criticisms for Discovery and all that stuff, and the movies. And, it's came closer to the season 3 going live. He started reviewing it. Dave Cullen, another YouTuber whose opinion on Star Trek I respect a great deal, started saying, "Yep, I've seen some of it, and I really like what I've seen so far." And so I thought, well, there's got to be something. If they can turn these two guys around, if there's something in there, either they've got a gun to their head and they're being forced to say this, or it's actually good. It's got to be worth a shot at least. So I had a little look at it, and it changed my mind as well. What can I say? Like, as you mentioned there's not many people that have been more critical of modern day Star Trek. Like, it's been fodder for many videos about how to not, update franchises for the modern age. But even I watched it and I got the feeling of, oh my God, I'm finally watching Star Trek again. After about 20 years of either bland movies or awful TV shows, I finally feel like I'm watching Star Trek again. It was a great feeling. And it's really turned it around for me. It's not fixed everything. It doesn't mean like, suddenly I'm going to forget about Star Trek Discovery and stuff and like the terrible J.J. Abrams movies, but it's the first step. And man, Terry Matalas, he knows what he's doing. Like, if you put that dude in charge of just Star Trek TV projects going forward, I think you'd be on the right track for salvaging this.
Excellent. Thank you. Nick, let me ask you, I know you're 3 episodes in. Do you notice a difference in the tone of Star? What do you think is the difference between the first
Absolutely.
and this one?
One thing obviously, I was one of those people that I enjoyed season 1 and 2. I didn't have anything massively wrong with them, but there was always that element of watching the first 2 seasons where, yeah, it's good, but it could be better. And season 3 has definitely hit that stride. And I think it's something there's some part of the recipe of Star Trek, and I think it has something to do with, in some ways, that heart and soul you feel about the characters. I mean, in Next Generation, Voyager, DS9, every once in a while there was a little bit of levity in the characters. The interactions had soul to them, and I think somehow Terry Matalas has managed to extract that soul of Star Trek and bring it up to the surface, where in the past we kind of saw glimpses of it and there was moments of it, but it wasn't sort of right up there in your face. And it's now I'm watching Star Trek and it's like, yes, this is what we've been waiting to see for the last 3 seasons, and it's finally arrived.
Awesome. Thank you, Nick. One of the things we keep saying about it is, as opposed to seasons 1 and 2, the writing is very tight. There are no plot holes. Everything is there for a purpose. Alex, let me ask you, you've been following along this season. What do you think is the recipe for success so far for this season of Picard?
It's definitely the relationships between the characters. I mean, you can throw as much CGI and fancy graphics as you can at the screen, and we've seen people do that, like J.J. Abrams. But what really matters is the characters, and because these are like legendary characters, and we all grew up watching them, we kind of know them, and we know what to expect from them, and we have expectations for them. I feel like for the most part, we've been getting what we expected from people like Picard and Riker and their relationships. Although I have to admit, there's some moments that I feel like are not quite what I would want. There's a really, really dark tone to like modern Trek that I feel like is stepping away from the optimism of like classic TNG stuff. And I really want them, if they are going to move forward with new TV shows, and if hopefully Terry takes on that role, I really want to see more optimism with Starfleet. I feel like in these new seasons of Picard and Discovery, like Starfleet always has this like really dark, weird edge to it. And that was kind of on display in episode 3 for me. I was like, something that Raffi said to Worf about Star Trek, or about the Federation like losing planets and forgetting about people and letting things slip through the cracks. And I'm like, that doesn't seem like Star Trek to me.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good point. And Drinker, that leads me to something else. A lot of people this week, when the show came out, they complained kind of a little bit. There's some people saying that, well, Riker would never talk to Picard that way. And I don't know if they caught on the kind of the deeper level of what's happening here. We've got, the whole episode is really about parenthood, and kind of Riker's lost a son, as we find out. Now Picard has found a son. Should people be concerned going forward about Picard and Riker's relationship? Do you think they'll feel better about it in the future, just since you have a little bit of inside knowledge?
they'll feel a lot better about it. I know I did, but I think you have to keep in mind as well, like, this is not Riker as a first officer anymore. This is Riker as a captain, and it's a man who's 20 years older. You know, he's had his career now as a leader himself. He's had his time in the captain's chair. He's grown and matured as a person in the time since we saw him in the movies and so on. And yeah, like the relationship dynamic between them is slightly different in this situation, particularly because Riker now has the responsibility of family back home. You know, he has a wife, he has a kid, and the prospect of losing them, or at least, you know, him losing his life and them being left without him, is something that weighs heavily on him. That responsibility of fatherhood weighs heavily on him, and it influences the way he acts towards Picard. And yeah, I think it's perfectly in line with the Riker that I remember from TNG. He always was the guy who was bristling a little bit under Picard and eager to get out by himself and have his own command. And I think when you see them having conflicting views on how to tackle a problem in this, it's no longer a first officer and a captain button heads. It's two captains essentially, and so yeah, he can absolutely express frustration. I think it works fine for me.
Excellent. Nick, what's your take on it?
Yeah, well, initially in last week's episode, you kind of think when Picard starts taking the offensive approach, we have to attack, and Riker's going, no, we have to run. It's like initially you think, okay, like Picard is generally, historically speaking, the diplomat. And you think, well, initially thought, I would have thought their positions would be reversed. That Picard would take the more diplomatic road. He'd want to save the ship and the crew and get out of there. Whereas Riker's always been a little bit more gung ho, shoot first, ask questions later kind of routine. Yeah. But then, as Drinker said, when you start analysing those last 20 years of Riker's command, the fact that he's married, he's had 2 kids, he's lost one, which has certainly, I think, softened him a little bit. You think, yeah, he is more protective probably of the crew than he might have been, which I guess is a bit like when you as a teenager, you do all crazy things. You go out there and take risks and everything. And once you've got a family, you go, oh shit, I got to rein it in a bit now because I got people who I'm responsible for. And I think Riker's taken that ton of edge. It seems in this season.
I think to keep in mind as well, like, this isn't his ship necessarily. Like, he's been put in like temporary command of it, and so perhaps it's like your friend lending you like their car. You're going to be a bit more careful with it, and he's very much aware of like there's hundreds of lives at stake now because of me. And so I can get that he's a bit more cautious. And this idea of being perhaps a bit more restrained and a bit more conservative and cautious is something that's played out throughout the season. The fact that the characters are 20 years older now. They're very much older people. And, you know, that kind of gung-ho, like, going guns blazing attitude is a young man's attitude. And perhaps you lose a bit of that as you get older. And some of the characters have to grapple with that. They have to try and move past it to do what needs to be done to get them through this situation. So, yeah, I think it makes sense. It's an exploration of what it means to get older and to have responsibilities and how you grapple with that when you're in a life or death situation.
I was pondering this scene that everybody's talking about with like Riker and Picard kind of going at it, and it made me feel uncomfortable, but I believe that that's kind of what the point was, is to make the audience feel uncomfortable about your 2 favorite characters like yelling at each other. But one of the things I want to pose to the crew here is like, how would you guys feel if maybe they kind of reverted back to like a TNG style of like, let me speak to you in the ready room. Like usually when a first officer and a captain have some kind of a major disagreement, they always do it outside of the earshot of the main bridge crew just to kind of air out any discrepancies. And then, you know, the captain will make a decision on what they want to do at that point. I feel like that might have been more in line with the militaristic Starfleet, you know, proper way of doing things. What do you guys think about that?
I do kind of agree in that sense. I think because of the haphazard nature of the situation they find themselves in, like I said earlier, you know, Riker is not the actual captain of this ship. He doesn't have a ready room. He's literally just been plonked into the command chair and told to go at it. And so maybe he doesn't really have time to do all of that stuff If this, yeah, like you say, if this was more of a standard TNG episode, that's how these disputes would be handled. But again, you've got essentially two officers of equal rank and equal standing, and friends that have known each other for a long time in a really like high stakes emergency situation. There just isn't time to go away and have a nice discussion in the ready room and then resolve their differences and come back to the problem. You know, they're in the middle of a battle, basically.
I mean,
And is
are
there
they
an-
of equal stature though? Because
Well,
last
being
time Riker
Picard's
took
an admiral.
command, last time Riker took command of the Enterprise, he crashed it into a planet.
Yeah. Well,
And also-
that'll get tackled later. But yeah.
And is there an element, do you think, where Riker kind of thinks Picard's kind of past his prime? He doesn't maybe know as much as he thinks he does. Like that moment when they were about to leave space dock, and he was saying to Seven, you know, shouldn't we tell the engineering that we're going to go to warp 9.9? And it's like, you don't know how things work anymore. Like, you know, everything's automated now. Like sit in your chair, old man, and just shut up because you don't know how things operate now. You know.
I mean, Picard is the more senior officer because he was an admiral, but Riker has the more recent commission, so his knowledge of starships is more up to date than Picard's is, and so there's that conflict of like, well, who's more relevant, whose experience is more useful in this situation, I suppose.
The great thing about this scene, and forgive me for jumping in, Drinker, it's good to see you again, Alex, as always.
By the way,
So-
this is Matt Kadish with the Salty Nerd Podcast.
Yes,
that just,
hi.
popped
Oh,
on
hey
the
man,
screen.
you've super chatted me a bunch of times on like my live streams. It's good to finally talk to you.
Good to finally talk to you. We actually met on a Midnight's Edge stream like years ago, but
Oh, nice.
yeah.
Cool.
I think
I
you
was
might have
probably
been drunk at the
so I
time.
don't
Yeah,
remember.
exactly. Yeah. But the great thing about this scene is that so you have basically two different philosophies of how to handle the situation here. Where with Riker's view of the situation, it's that they're at a severe disadvantage, so it's better to run and hide from the threat. But from Picard's point of view, it's like the best way to keep the crew safe and the ship safe is to destroy the threat. And so, it's kind of interesting. Like when I was watching this scene, I kept thinking of the best of both worlds, the two-parter where Picard became the Borg and it was up to Riker to kind of command the Enterprise. And the stance that Riker took in the best of both worlds was very much aggressive. Like it wasn't like a kind of like run and hide type thing. And I feel like the switch here where Riker was like, look, we're severely outgunned. We have to basically hide in the nebula and wait for a moment to run away. It's the Tremors philosophy, right? Like, when all plans fail, you just run. And then Picard's a little bit more strategic where he's like, look, if we have the advantage, we have to take out this threat because otherwise we're constantly in danger of losing the ship and the crew. So I thought that setting up those two kind of like conflicting philosophies was really interesting. What I didn't like, and the reason I had a problem with what happened in the episode, was that at the end when Riker made the command call to listen to Jean-Luc and actually take the aggressive approach, he then blamed Jean-Luc for the failure of it, where he's like, you just got us all killed. It's like, bitch, you were the one who made the call, right?
Yeah.
Like in a real military situation, like you don't listen to other people make the command and then be like, oh, it was that guy's fault that it didn't work out the way I wanted it to. It's like, no, as the captain, you own that.
I think that was probably Riker talking more as a friend than as a captain in that moment.
Even as a friend, like I don't feel like he would have been like Jean-Luc Picard just got us killed because I listened to what he told me to do. Like he spent 10 years listening to and following orders from that guy, and not once, even if he disagreed with the orders, not once did he blame Jean-Luc for when things went wrong. Right?
Something you got to remember here, Matt, really quick to jump in. So we are dealing on a different level here. So we're dealing with a Riker that Drinker said it earlier, where he's on a different emotional level right now. He's still command capable and everything, but he's dealing with this stuff that's come up about his family. He's alienated from him right now, and he's in protection mode. He allowed in the moment Jean-Luc to do it, and he probably regrets that decision. And he's probably more angry with himself than he is actually at Picard for what's happening. And so that's probably what we're seeing. But I know there's a lot of people talking about right now complaining that, well, this person wouldn't do this and this person wouldn't do this. Let's get to Beverly Crusher really quick, the elephant in the room. this is a
Not
week
that she's an
issue.
elephant. She's a very attractive older woman.
Right.
In fact,
yes.
I'd call her a gilf.
Yeah, she's Brian's. Yes, Brian would definitely love her. But she said some things this week. Everybody wanted to know, what's your reasoning? Why would you not tell Picard he has a son? And so she came out with her explanation, and basically the explanation was, well, I can protect my son, but I don't know if I can protect your son because Picard's always in danger. A lot of people thought that's kind of an out of a character thing. I'm just curious to get each of your takes on this. Nick, can you tell me what your take is on Beverly's explanation? Is it acceptable? Who was right in the end here?
Yeah, look, I completely went with it. I in listening to it, you're sort of listening to it with sort of one eyebrow slightly raised, thinking, am I going to buy this explanation? And I think at the end of the day, she did pose enough sort of plausible examples when she listed out all of the things. You went to here, and there was a Romulan, terrorist attack on your life, and then you went to this planet, and something else exploded, or someone tried to shoot at you, or whatever. There was enough examples, I think, that she gave that at that particular moment in time when she had the baby, that all this shit was going on for Jean-Luc. His life seemed to be completely chaotic with the whole Romulan relocation effort going on. And I think she convinced me. I think yeah, okay, all that stuff. If all that stuff was going down at the time, I kind of get it. So yeah, I went with it.
Okay, what do you think, Alex? Do you think her explanation was acceptable?
I actually do. I agree with Nick. I didn't have a problem with it. There's other things in this episode that kind of like irked me the wrong way, but that was not one of them. I was like, yeah, it makes sense. Picard is a cowboy of his age. He's out there doing things and putting his life in danger. When the galaxy calls for his help, he jumps in and goes with no regard to anybody else around him. He has a duty that he considers his. So I bought her explanation. I did not have a problem with it at all.
So to take it one step further, Drinker, some people are saying, well, she raised Wesley on a very dangerous vessel, right? Why would all of a sudden her situation change?
Well,
now
no
in
one
the
liked
future?
Wesley, so
Yeah, I mean, like the thing you have to consider here is that Wesley was a dick, so that was part of the problem. The thing is, you learn from experience as well, and so she had the experience of Wesley, ultimately, getting taken in by the Traveler and going off on his own journey and across the universe, and he was lost to her forever. So I think that experience makes you then more wary. She might have gone into it with slightly more open eyes, initially thinking, well, a big galaxy class starship, and it was all part of this slightly goofy thing that they had with TNG, where it's like we got families with children on board. It's like a giant hotel floating in the space, and it was maybe, I think the writers might have started to regret that after season 1, but it was the utopian vision of what Star Trek was. But whatever. I think the experience of losing Wesley to the stars essentially might have made her a lot more cautious about her next kid. Partly, I was very impressed by the fact that a woman in her mid-50s apparently got pregnant. But, okay, fine.
I mean, this is a
I
society
posed that question
can
again.
regrow a kidney with a pill, right? So
Yeah, I mean, this okay, it's fine. It's a few hundred
the-
years in the future, so people age perhaps different than they do now. But yeah,
The best explanation that I heard, because I questioned this in a couple of my reviews, and I got a bit torn down by it because people were a bit cross that I'd said a woman in her late 50s, yes, with medical science could get pregnant, but surely just getting pregnant from a one-night fling when she's about to leave and everything is a whole different story. But the best explanation I heard, which I wish they had used in the show, is that if Beverly had just said, if Jean-Luc had said, "Oh, Beverly, but how did you get pregnant?" We're sort of, in the middle of, sort of towards the senior end of our lives, and if Beverly had have said, the Baku planet from Insurrection regenerated my fertility by an extra 15 years, then I would have gone with it. I thought, oh, perfect. That would have explained it,
Well, Nick, there's a much simpler explanation, which is that bald men are just more virile than regular men with hair.
his hyper masculinity just got her pregnant, rejuvenated her whole reproductive system.
Look at her,
So Matt, my question. So when I was listening to the argument go back and forth, Beverly would say something like, "Okay, yeah." Then Picard would be like, "Well, hold on a second." And Picard, refreshingly, was not backing down. I mean, he took it to her. He took her to task.
This is what I love about this season. It's what I've been waiting for ever since season 1. Like Picard was just an absolute whipping boy in season 1, just apologizing for everything. Finally, after 3 seasons, he starts actually acting like Picard again. And if people have a go at him over something that wasn't his fault, or like they've got flawed logic, he absolutely takes them to task and calls them out on their bullshit, which he absolutely should. That's in line with the Picard that we know. You know, I need to say he's a learned man, but he doesn't take shit from people.
I need to say that this scene between Jean-Luc and Beverly was probably one of the best scenes that I've seen in modern Star Trek. Like ever since Enterprise ended, we've had this barrage of like new Trek, whether it be from J.J. Abrams or Alex Kurtzman. And this one scene between Jean-Luc and Beverly, when they finally share the screen together again and talk to one another as the characters we remember them to be, I was like, yes, give me all of this. Give me more of this. I want this. Because
you will get more of this, trust me.
I've always been a big Crusher Picard shipper. Like I always thought like they were like really good together. And so to hear about like their on again, off again, like sexual relationship and stuff like that, I was like, oh man, there's so much history here that like we never got to see. And I kind of wanted her to kind of shoot back, and it's like, you never liked Wesley, so what made me think that you were going to like this kid, you know?
You should have replied then, well, nobody liked Wesley, so that was no different.
Exactly.
He should have said, shut up, Beverly.
She never said, every time you entered a turbo lift on the Enterprise D and there was a kid there, you bristled like all hell. So, you can't blame her.
I mean, they made a big point in season 1 of Picard that he also like hated kids, right? So like it's not surprising, but it's kind of weird also that they reference like season 2, because they've been trying really hard to ignore the previous 2 seasons of Picard. But he was like, I finally worked through all my daddy issues, and who knows, like this could have I could have gotten there sooner if I had actually been a dad. So it was kind of weird that they were like, referred to that. But at the same time, I didn't care. I was just like, I want an entire show of just Picard and Beverly bickering about their torrid past together.
I mean, one thing I'll say about this season, it borrows elements from the movies in the sense that like there's elements of Undiscovered Country in here, and there's definitely elements of Wrath of Khan going on, and so the whole plot between Kirk and his son David is sort of replicated here.
There
like,
is a lot
similar
of
dynamic,
Khan,
like this,
parallel.
the son that you didn't know you had, like battles in a nebula, a villain like set on revenge.
I will give them props for explaining Jack's accent.
Yeah. I'm very happy that they did not just like wash that away and not talk about it, because that was the first
with that accent, man.
That was the first question that my wife asked when we were watching this. I think episode 2 together. She was like, "Why is he British?" I'm like, "I don't know. I'm assuming they'll bring it up eventually. I'm hoping anyway."
British people are just fundamentally cooler. I will say as well, like
that is true. They make better villains too.
Yeah, well, props to the writing of his character and the actor who portrays him, because he does an awesome job throughout this season. Again, he would have been easy for a character. He would have been an easy target for people to break down, and he's too cocky for his own good, and he needs to be taken down a peg. And it's never really like that. He's able to hold his own up against basically anyone. He's charismatic. He's confident. Again, that's the kind of male character that you've not been getting at all in Star Trek over the past 10 years.
Can I also
and it's
point
so
out
cool to see him now.
The scene between Jack and Riker, as Beverly and Jean-Luc were talking, that was a great scene too, where Riker's just like, "Listen here, kid. It's like I've known your dad since before you were a gleam in your mom's bloodshot eyes." It was such a good like scene where Riker was just like he's dealt with like the teenage kid before, and so like he knew exactly what to say to Jack to get him put him in his place. I really like that scene.
So real quick, let me break in here because just so you guys know, Terry Matalas is in the chat, and Nick, he says here to you, "I like your videos, Nick." So just
thank you, Terry. Much appreciated.
He also says something here that I think is really good. Kirk knew about his son, so this is something that's come up.
Yeah, he did, but he didn't know that David Marcus was his son. So, like, you know, he beams in, Marcus tries to kill him, and so like he didn't know that was actually him. So yeah, and obviously he'd never met him either.
Right.
Terry, you should come in the chat and have a chat with us. I'd love to chat with you.
Yeah, come on screen, man. Show
Send him a link.
face.
We'll send him
Send
the
him a
link if
link,
he wants to
Shane.
come in.
Brian's not here to sexually harass you, so it's a safe space.
But let me ask you this. So based on what he just said right there, there's been a lot of comparisons to this season being very similar to the Wrath of Khan. Do you guys see similarities in that?
Oh,
I
yeah.
more see like a reflection of TOS.
Right from the
movie.
first
think
title
it's-
card of episode 1. I mean, you know, in the 25th century, you know,
You know the bit
right
that
from
I
that very
love
first frame.
is when Riker and Picard step aboard the Titan and they get the little whistle, the bosun's whistle that you got. That's straight classic Wrath of Khan
Yeah,
stuff.
I'm
there.
just waiting for
all
Amanda
those
Plummer to
nautical
like show her cleavage. It's like Ricardo Montalban.
God.
Remember, Alex, when we reviewed Star Trek 2, we
isn't
debated
it
whether or not
cool?
that was a real chest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I did. I was like, is he wearing like a prosthetic chest? He looks so
Dude.
freaking chiseled.
Dude worked out, you know?
Yeah,
It's
he
like,
did.
He's like
100 push-ups a
200
day.
years old and he was still
But
like
that's-
pumping iron.
Because I haven't seen the whole season yet, like some of you guys have. So I'm only on episode 3. So at this point, I don't know the villain's connection to Picard quite yet. So I'm not quite at the Wrath of Khan moment where they're like, oh, she's this villain from this other time or whatever.
Yeah, but the whole run silent, run deep thing in the nebulas.
Yeah.
Out of, like,
Oh, and
Yeah.
Shane, I wanted to mention too the whole hunt for Red October. That was that was this whole episode. Episode 3 was literally a hunt for Red October, like snippet from the submarines like hiding from each other and like pulling crazy Ivans and all that stuff. I loved it. It was a blast.
I want to point out that I think it's a little bit unfair for Riker to blame Picard because they use the magic bullshit device to, shoot their own
Oh, the
torpedoes
portal
at them.
gun.
I did.
Yeah.
Wait, clarify your point
And
on
hang
magic
on.
bullshit device.
Well, I mean, it's technology that they couldn't account for, right? Because they don't know anything about it, and so for Riker to blame him for that gambit not working, it's like it's just I say magic bullshit device because Critical Drinker's on the screen, and if anybody watches his videos, they know what I'm talking
Well,
about.
I think it's fine because the series establishes the laws and rules that govern how it works.
Yeah,
and
they actually
so
set
it's like
it up.
fine, I can
They
buy
actually
into
set
it.
up. Yeah.
And
I-
it's funny. Like I love how like ponderous starships are again because like there was a tendency, particularly in the movies, to the J.J. Abrams movies, to treat them like freaking starfighters that can just be thrown around. But like here, they're big lumbering.
Do you remember?
Warships in space.
Do you remember that? I can't remember which TNG movie it was, but when Riker pulled out the joystick to fly the Enterprise,
Oh my God.
it was like
That was
flying
Insurrection.
Insurrection.
It's like you can't pilot a starship like something of that size with a joystick.
the joystick. I about died, dude.
Nick, what was your point?
I think we have to put a little bit of blame to their predicament on the science officer. Is it Tavine, the Vulcan science officer on the bridge of the Vulcan on the
Oh, the
Titan?
bald one.
And like because after the Titan had passed through the portal, twice, and then Riker decided to attack. Wouldn't it have been the role of the science officer to say, Captain, I estimate an X amount percentage chance that if we fire weapons on the Shrike, she will use the portal device to throw our photon torpedoes back on us,
Well, it did make me wonder, like, okay, fine, the torpedoes are kind of slow, and so you could fire a portal in their path, but what if you fired a phaser? I mean, it moves at the speed of light. Like, you're not going to be able to, like, get a portal in that way. But
Well, let me ask you guys this. So like in Discovery Season 2, the Enterprise actually deployed all their repair drones to act as like point defense offensive ships when they were fighting like the big magic ball of Borgness. And so I'm wondering, did Starfleet like decommission all like the mini fighters that starships can deploy to help protect them between now and
we don't atone anything to Discovery to this season. Okay,
let's not talk about Discovery.
None
Yeah,
of
let's-
that canon.
sucks.
I mean that's like 200 years in the past, right? So like that's ancient tech. Shouldn't that
Yeah.
have been upgraded by now? So
Where's all the
shouldn't they
Mycelium
have, like-
Network ships?
we don't
too
talk
that
about
are going in?
Well, but I mean, like this is
Let's not go there.
this is experimental stuff though. Like shouldn't the Titan have like all these little mini drones that go out and like have like late phasers on them?
I did have a question about the portal gun weaponry. I don't know. I'm wondering if Terry is a fan of the game Portal because it acts exactly the same as that. But is there like a recharge time? Because at the first time we see them use it, she's like, get the portal thing ready or whatever. And they're like 10-4, Captain, and they, push some buttons on the screen or whatever and get it going. But when she uses it during this final battle sequence in episode 3, she's just popping them left and right like it's nothing. So I'm
there was
curious
no recharge time as far as I
with-
could see.
Yeah, I think with a lot of weapons in this series, it's like there's a power-up time rather than like a cooldown time. So everything just seems to take a while to initiate. Like if you want to go to warp, it takes like 30 seconds or something to get the thing spooled up and ready to go. That's why they keep getting caught by the portal thing because they can't just warp away immediately.
I do like that. I think that adds a really great element of tension when they have to actually like warm the engines up before they take off at warp speed.
Yeah.
Is there a reason that they can't just warp out of the nebula?
Yeah, the nebula won't allow them to warp out. Initially, that's what it was. Then they got damaged, right? And so then they needed 2 hours in order to get
why
warped
can't
back.
you just like warp out of the nebula? Like
Wasn't there something in the nebula that was
Something in the
affecting
nebula.
their ability to make a warp field or something? Or
Remember, it's a living being.
Yeah.
I love as well. Like I don't know if it's in this episode because it's been a couple of weeks since I watched it, but like when they're in the nebula and it's like, well, it's interfering with our visuals, so we can't scan properly. And like Shaw just says, "Well, send someone out to look at the goddamn window." And I thought that was just a joke, but then someone actually fucking does it.
There was two people in the observation lounge doing it.
Yeah, and it's like that's really cool because it makes sense. There's a window there you can look through it. You don't need
I love
screen
Shaw.
or anything.
I love Shaw so much. I hope
He's
that
awesome.
he gets his own spinoff like Pike did, because I would watch the shit out of a Shaw.
He's funny.
series.
The
He's
actor's
fantastic.
funny that plays him. He's got some cracking lines, and like
I don't know if you guys ever watched 12 Monkeys, which was another Terry Matalas show, but the actor who plays Shaw was the main bad guy in that series, and he just stole the show every time he was on
Sort of
screen.
bad guy, yeah.
Fantastic, yeah. Well, he kind of became a good guy like towards the end of the series, but he
sounds
started off
familiar
as
to the
like
show.
yeah. But
So-
oh man, he's so good. That scene where he's with Jack and he's like, "How do they keep finding us?" Like even as he's dying, he's like captaining the ship. It's really fantastic.
And as good as he is, guys, you're gonna end up liking him more. That's all I want to say about that.
yeah. I was gonna say as well, like because this is a perfect example of the quality of the writing of this show. Because if he'd been in Star Trek Discovery or something of that nature, he would have been like just another white male who's like
Mansplaining,
condescending and needs to be broken down and taught a lesson.
They would have killed him.
And
by
here
now.
it's like no, he emerges as a far more complex character who's actually got a reason for feeling the way he does. There's a reason why he's an asshole to Picard. And he actually is a pretty capable commander in a combat situation. He gets taken out, obviously, at a certain point in the battle, and he has to like delegate command to Riker. But like he's pretty good up until that point. He knows his stuff, and I just thought, well done. You actually had the balls to create a character like that who is interesting and is good at what he does, and he doesn't just immediately get like nerfed by someone
Also,
else.
his reaction as soon as Picard reveals that Jack's his son was like Emmy worthy. Like he's just like, oh god damn it.
God damn it! All right, let's go.
He's like, okay, well, I'm gonna have to commit to this now.
Yep. I
Let me
like
grab
that.
this super chat real quick, guys, from Damn It Spock, 20 pounds. Season 3 is a return to form. First time I've been hyped for each next episode and watched all 3 episodes several times. Raising a McCoy smuggled Romulan ale to all of you lads. I'll be sending an extra 1,500 pounds on Exos, or spending an extra 1,500 pounds on Exo 6 figures now. Do you guys collect figures for? Are you going to planning to collect some figures for Star Trek? Card Season 3.
I'm not a big collector of figures.
I'm not a collector either.
I see some
I'm
cool
more
stuff
like-
behind Drinker.
Yeah, I'm more like video games and comic book stuff rather than like Star Trek, which is weird because like I love Star Trek in general. It's just like I don't really feel the need to buy the collectibles. Like they just don't look as cool as Batman.
Terry's freaking taking us to task in the chat, guys.
What's he saying?
He says,
let's bring out what Terry said. Yeah.
Yeah, because he's commented about 3 times and he's challenging what we're saying, which is totally cool. But
Yeah, okay, let me
yeah,
work
there you
down
go.
from here. Usually I've got my sidekick, but he's not feeling good right now.
Well, Terry, I've imagined myself being commander of a starship for decades, and I was freaking amazing at it.
Wait, let me get this from him. So Terry says it's so easy to do Monday morning quarterbacking about fighting the Shrike, but bottom line, if this were a video game, you all would have gone through about 10 lives before you got away.
Yeah, I get like, when we were bringing up the point about like you could fire phasers at it. Well, it's probably far too heavily armored, and it's not going to do anything against it anyway. So you are outgunned against a ship like that, no matter what you do.
I will say that I have written 5 science fiction space opera books where I actually spent months studying like space combat and stuff like that. So I will pull a little bit of a card where like I might have a bit of a thing to say about like, some
deflect the dish.
I will say this, right? I will say this about this whole combat sequence, right? What I liked about this way more than something like Star Trek Nemesis, where it was basically just like 2 ships pounding away at each other for like 2 hours or something. Like there was no real sense of like the tactics involved in the battle. It was like, okay, you have got a weapon with a clearly defined like purpose and rules around how it operates, and it's novel and interesting, and it can be used in quite interesting ways to turn your own attacks against you. Even though the Shrike outguns the Titan 10-1 anyway, it could use this portal to turn their own weapons against them as well. Which I think is just cool. It's an interesting way of like even stacking the odds against them even more. So
and I will say
battle sequence.
I will say once Jack talked to Shaw and he realized that the ship itself was leaving a breadcrumb, like blood in the water, like they were talking about. The idea of like, okay, we're gonna have our trail end cold, flip around behind them, like that whole conversation about what to do with that information, like how do we trap them, and that idea of like, okay, we can either escape, which I thought was the preferable option, was like get the hell out of there and then double back with some backup, or fight them like Picard wanted to. Those 2 options, they were pretty well thought out. I really enjoyed that back and forth right there.
And I do want to point out to Terry that when you have a group of nerds arguing over the semantics of the battle plan, you're doing something right.
Yeah, you're winning.
This isn't like Discovery Season 2 where you're like they're deploying the repair drones to fight the Borg cube. No. Like you've achieved something that every Star Trek series beforehand has successfully achieved, which is make nerds argue about nitpicky details. Wait, did Riker say that it took 17 seconds for the turbo lift to get to sickbay? What?
They're in there.
It's supposed to take 15.4 seconds.
Yeah. There's somebody out there taking a measurement of the schematics of the Enterprise D, going, "Wait a second."
It's like,
they're watching other episodes.
Mr. Matalas, you need to take into account the gravity well of the nearest star system.
Well, let me bring up something here, guys. So you mentioned the use of kind of a different way to do things, like the portal weapon. We had. In the first episode, we actually had a ship get thrown at the Titan. So the Helios was thrown at the Titan. We've seen a lot of different things here in Star Trek this season than we've pretty much ever seen in Star Trek before. How do you guys feel about the use of technology and just kind of a different way of doing things? How do you feel like that's been done?
So
I mean, Star Trek's always messed around with stuff like this. Like, it's not like quite level of like the Holdo maneuver, where it's like this breaks the mechanics of space battles forever in this
how dare you
universe. But then you know, even back in the day, you had things like Undiscovered Country. There was a bird of prey that could fire while cloaked. Well, okay, that's a pretty major change to like the dynamics of a combat situation against Klingons. Like, but then it kind of never gets really mentioned again. So like you could play around with this stuff, and I'm fine with doing more inventive things with space combat in Star Trek than just
at least
blast
they
away with
justified
phasers.
it. At least they justified it by Boom Boom LaForge saying that her daddy theorized that this type of stuff was possible, or Crash LaForge. I'm sorry, Boom Boom. I don't know where I got that from. But at least I can say this. There was no space butthole portal with Robo Cthulhu coming out, threatening a bunch of robotic flowers that were like the point defense for a planet. Like just the fact that that's not in this show alone puts it miles above most Star Trek shows of the modern era.
I mean, I think it's completely freshened up space combat. I think, you know, how many times can we see fire phasers, fire photon torpedoes? Yeah, okay, pew pew. You know, throwing starships at each other and portal weapons. It's added an unexpected and completely refreshed your expectations for a space combat scenario. So I'm loving every minute of it.
I imagine
enjoy
what will
it.
happen ultimately is like you know, when this season is over, they'll say, well, that technology was like stolen from the Daystrom Institute and it's been lost and destroyed since then, so we can't replicate it. Oh well, no more portal guns in space.
I am surprised at how many times that they pointed out that Picard's positronic. It's not like the real Picard. And even when Riker says like he's still the same man, it's like, is he? Didn't the real Picard like actually die and this is just a copy of him?
Well,
you can make that argument about like transporters as well, that you're essentially just a copy of your original self and like your original version.
It's the Prestige all over again.
It's like this is existential horror right now in Star Trek.
I do want to point out,
did a whole video about that or something.
Yeah.
I do want to point out that like as much as I love the new styles and the new technology that they're using in the battles, what I think really makes us all kind of nerd out is the fact that they're running blind in this nebula, and it's forcing them to use these tactics that we can all sit here and analyze. Like if they were out in the open and they were using all this crazy sensors and this and that, I think there would be less tension. So I enjoy the Hunt for October aspect of it. The submarine which is where the original series Star Trek all starts from, is like mimicking those types of battles. I think the fact that they're in this nebula and like half blind and can't use their actual technology sets this episode apart or this show apart from a lot of other ones.
It gives them a chance to get a reprieve. Like if they need to withdraw from the battle to let the characters have a moment or whatever, it's like, well, okay, you've disappeared into the nebula and the ships have lost contact with each other temporarily, which is it's fine. It's a good plot device as far as I'm concerned.
Well said. Okay, we've got a $2 super chat real quick. Is ship in a bottle equals the new space seed? From Altar of Madness. Thanks for that one right there. Well, I don't ship in the bottle episodes. I think they're important for, and Terry just mentioned it here, that they didn't have enough budget to do the full Crimson Tide like they talked about. So
I think they're referring to the episode with Moriarty as opposed to ship in a bottle episodes being the budget saving episode.
Because Space Seed is where we meet Khan for the first time in the original series.
Yeah, so they're comparing the birth of Khan in sort of Space Seed to Moriarty returning in season 3. I'm guessing here.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what you think, that was a deep reference as well. Moriarty, from TNG. Like, damn.
All right. So let me ask you guys another question here. I got lost up. I see Brian's supposed to be here doing the super chat. I don't think he's off in the back end somewhere. Son of John, here it says here for $10, my 2 cents. I'm reminded of Riker telling Lieutenant Commander Shelby in the BOBWs that he is going to play things safe, but Riker was out of line to take out his frustration at the end of episode 3 onto Picard. That's something we'd love Terry to answer I think Terry just answered that in messages before. I think he said that in episode 4, Riker explains his mindset or something in that episode, which gives what his actions were in episode 3 a bit more clarity. Go back a couple of messages from Terry. Yeah,
that's the benefit of being able to watch the whole season in one take, rather than sit here and wait for another week. Like we have to sit here and go like, God damn it, Riker was being a dick at the end of this episode. But if we just wait another 5 days, we'll hear the answer to it.
Well, and part of it though is having that discussion. So you haven't had the chance. Having a week to wait. That's why I love having the week, because we get to do this stuff. This is the best part of fandom is talking about it, right?
Totally. 100%.
Well, like you say, it's great that we're here discussing the intricacies of like how these space battles and stuff and how the technology works, rather than, oh my god, I can't believe how shit this was. Like, what are we even doing with this show?
It's like, did they just kill Icheb? Took out his eye? What?
Yeah.
What the hell's going on
the hope and optimism of Star Trek. Like, people getting horribly dismembered.
Why did they give him a positronic body that's exactly the same age and will die at the natural, a couple
real
years?
Quick, guys.
I think Red Letter Media just covered that perfectly, where they were like, did they give him a bad back as well? Like in this positronic body, did they give him like a leaky bladder?
Erectile dysfunction.
Yeah.
No, he doesn't have that. He doesn't have that. This man is sturdy.
We have a super chat from Son of John. My 2 cents. I'm reminded that Riker telling Commander Shelby in the. Oh, you were at that.
Oh, we got that one. We got that one.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm sorry. All the other ones trying to find Terry.
Henry back to play. Sake of argument. Say Titan blows up. The last thing Riker said, and Picard heard was, "It's your fault. You killed us all." And then also from 200 Watt Studio,
The Beverly Picard scene was the best acting in Star Trek in a long time, including TNG. That's true.
There's a lot of that in this season where actors that maybe didn't get a huge amount of opportunities to stretch their acting muscles in the original series really get to go for it here. You know, you get really like intense scenes between them.
I tell you though, I'm loving like Shaw, Seven, Crash LaForge, and Jack. Like I can see like the setup for a new spinoff, like in the early stages, and I'm loving it because everything with these new characters, like in the previous 2 seasons of Picard, every time they introduced a new character, I wanted to roll my eyes because they were just so bad, so cringe.
Yep.
But all the new characters that they're introducing in this season, I'm like, I want more of these.
Yeah.
You know, it was kind of like how I felt about Pike in season 2 of Discovery.
They're nice and they're likable. They're like professional. They're
competent.
People Yes, they're people you want to see more of, and it's like they're not snooty, obnoxious arseholes like you often got in Discovery. They're not constantly crying and losing their minds over things. Like they're just people who are doing their jobs, and like they are willing to cooperate with people, and they're interesting. It's such a different mindset when it comes to the writing of this.
So
I think
something
with
sorry, go ahead. Finish.
I was just going to say as well, like with Seven, I don't know how you guys feel. Like even going back to season 1 of Picard, I never fully understood why she was there or what connection she has to like Picard and the others. Like she was never with them back in the day. I don't know if it was just because Jerry Ryan was available or something, but like
she was part of work.
Yeah, but here it's like, well, it actually feels like she's got a better place in things. She has a better character now. Like she actually feels a bit more like Seven from Voyager. There's something to her now. Yeah. So I appreciate that. Again, it's like they got the character so much better now.
Another super chat from 200 Watt. Riker has now the responsibility of hundreds of people. You can't have someone confusing orders and doubting the captain's judgment in front of the bridge crew. That's true.
Well, Picard tried to whisper at first.
That's kind of the point I was making about the whole like the ready room or the observation deck or whatever. Like pull him aside and shout it out outside of the earshot of the officers on the bridge, instead of just like questioning the orders of the captain right in front of everybody. I mean, that's always, yes, it built some tension and you know there's reasons for it happening, like you guys have already talked about. But I'm like, man, I think it would have been a really cool scene to just isolate those 2 characters and have them battle it out.
So we haven't talked about the Worf and Rafi relationship.
Do we have to talk about this? Do we have to talk about
Rafi? Yes, we do. We do have to
I'll tell you. Well,
it's like putting the brakes on the entire show right now. Talk about Rafi.
So
I think they've done better with Rafi in this season than they have ever before.
Yeah, so she's just incredibly annoying instead of absolutely annoying. This season. I understand why they included her in this season, but I swear to God, when she was doing that interrogation scene, I'm like, she is not a bad cop. Like she is not intimidating at all. I don't care how much mascara you put on her; she's not scary. You know. So and also the fact that Worf kind of like already knew that this was like a shifter, and he had like his contact Odo, who I'm assuming.
Well, he didn't know this guy.
Warned him about this stuff, but I mean, like as soon as he put it together, he still let Rafi kind of go off on her interrogation thing, and it was just cringy. It was a cringy scene, and it's not because of like the writing or anything like that. It's just because I've had 2 seasons of this character being like one of the worst characters I've ever seen in Star Trek.
So Matt's wrong again, by the way. Matt, we already had this discussion. He did not know that was a shifter.
Yeah.
Shane, please someone explain this to Matt.
Yeah, no, he didn't know he was a shifter until after.
Maybe not at first, but he put it together as she was interrogating him.
No, she put it together when he started changing.
Yeah, it wasn't when his face
put
changed.
It together when he started shaking. Like Worf was sitting in the back watching the whole thing go down, and he was putting it together as he was watching the interrogation.
No, I have to disagree.
And then it confirmed it when he saw like that little shift.
It was when Rafi was like, "Whoa, that's not withdrawals. What is that?" And he said, "Oh, I recognize this. This is a changeling." Like you're talking about a second of dialogue between your point and our point. I think it's forgivable. If you have a nitpick about it, that's fine. But I think it was totally like, I just realized
right
now.
I'll tell you the best part of that scene was when Worf was going through like all of his titles and then says, "Would you like some chamomile tea?"
I loved that moment.
That was great.
That was awesome. Yes.
Well, listen, we've got. Why don't we get it from the horse's mouth? How about we just have Terry explain it because he's.
Man.
Hey.
Welcome,
hey.
Terry,
Hey, man.
Showrunner, Picard season 3. Thank you
This
for
is so
coming on
bad.
board,
I should be
sir.
working right
Terry,
now.
you got a lot to answer for. Let's hear it.
I can't wait to watch him destroy you, Kadish.
What?
It's gonna be glorious.
I'm going to have to tell the showrunner of Picard that he's wrong. I'm right.
What's up, everybody? What's up, Drink?
Hey,
It's a pleasure to be talking to you, man. I've got a lot to thank you for with this show.
Oh, well, thank you guys for watching. I feel like I only see you guys on YouTube. This is crazy to actually talk. Nick, Drinker, I watch your stuff all the time. Salty, what's up? What's up, Matt?
Cheers.
Shane,
Thanks,
Brian,
man.
I see you guys all the time.
Yep.
Good to see
I
you.
see your comments. You're always like, Brian, you're so lame. I don't get it. Why do you like me less than Shane? I don't understand.
you're the lovable one. So,
Well,
Terry,
Shane's
since we
the
have you
better
on
looking
here,
one,
so what do you think of some of these little nitpicking nerd thingies? Is it something that you enjoy seeing people?
Oh, yeah,
argue
dude,
about?
I love it. You kidding? I love to wake up to 101. 101,000. Look, yeah, I mean, it's part of the, it's life in the big city when you do this. And the truth is, so many of the nitpicks things are things you've talked about in the room and are going to get nitpicked.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't actually, address in making an episode of television. You can add the dialogue, or sometimes it's actually in there, or you've added a bit of technical details about phasers, or why don't you phasers have targeted blah 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 blah, and you're just like it's gibberish and it's taking away another 35 seconds of this, that, or the other thing, so you don't put it in. I think probably the one that I think is not necessarily the harshest criticism, but the one that's the most interesting is the ending specifically, or people that have the most problem with it, is Riker turning to Picard and kicking him off the bridge. You killed us. I think that's the one that makes people feel the ickiest. And it's by design. You're not supposed to feel good by that. But I think the thing that people probably don't understand the most about it is sort of tracking how and why Riker is coming to that. And it's not just about tactics. It's not just bridge tactics. It's about a man who lost his son, who is now seeing a man find a son and rejecting those notions. And because of that, Riker is feeling defensive of all the sons and daughters on this ship and trying to get this ship home and feeling responsible for all these people. And Picard is angry because he's discovered a son who he just found out rejected him and said, Beverly said to him, he didn't want to meet you. He didn't want to know you. And so Picard is fired up and is like, let's go fight. So they're coming at it from these wildly different sort of not philosophical, but sort of emotional places. And it is messy, right? It's not 1992 Star Trek The Next Generation, which is hard to do. It is admittedly, for fans who, including myself, who grow up with these characters, it's hard to see them in this context. And it's not the same show. It's much closer to a streaming, emotional, it's messier. And so I understand that when it comes to fans are just like, this is not for me. But then I truly have to say, don't watch this. Go back and watch Star Trek The Next Generation. In your headcanon, let Star Trek The Next Generation end at all good things. That's okay. For the longest time, it ended that way for me. I didn't want Generations. I don't like the idea that Captain Kirk died on a bridge in Generations.
Under a bridge.
That's not
The original take of that was even worse. He just gets fucking shot in the back with a phaser and dies. It's the lamest end ever.
I get it, but if you can roll with it, I think we get to a really good place by the end of this thing. But
I mean,
anyway,
for you,
That's my TED talk on the end of this episode.
Was there
Well,
an
here's a
element
question
as
for you,
well-
Terry. What about real quick? Is there an element of handcuffing? You're coming in on the third season. You've got 2 seasons before to address, some good, some bad, mostly bad. So do you feel like you have some handcuffing involved with trying to like explain what's happened before, but also tell your story? How do you deal with that as a showrunner?
Well, I'm not going to start the show with them waking up and be like, whew, that was a weird dream. Let's, it's not fair to the creatives that came before. I wouldn't want to do that. And, the Picard as a robot thing is probably the single most controversial thing that I get tweeted at every day. I just look at it as it's an almost human synthetic body. It's an exact copy. I look at it as a transporter thing. The sort of allegory that you're all using. That every time you step into a transporter, it's essentially you're being rebuilt on the other side of it. Whether or not that, I just don't see him going beep beep boop bop bop bop, and you know what I mean. And like if you open him up, he's got all lots of lights in there. I feel like every way. That's just my headcanon of it all, and that's why Riker says he's still the same man, and I have to go with that, and I think that was the intention, to begin with.
Well, Terry, the difference is though your headcanon is actually canon. So
that's what we're going with. And look, it gets there's somewhat of a, if you keep watching, there's somewhat of a payoff to it this season.
Yes, nice.
Mhm.
There's it's addressed a little bit more. I'm not saying we don't undo it, but there is narratively there's a thing about it.
How difficult was it to come up with the backstory, for the whole, I mean, we've been waiting for a Picard Beverly relationship, explanation for years. And so now we have Jack. How difficult was it to come up with something that ties into the events of what happened in the last movie and to what's happened now, and kind of create something where, you got to explain what happened? How did you guys come up with that story?
But specifically with Jack?
Yeah, the scene between Beverly and Jean-Luc is incredible.
Well, it started with the question of what's the last unexplored relationship in the life of Jean-Luc Picard, and I said a son. It felt like they had done a daughter in season 1 with Soji, and so you say, well, how can he have a son that's reasonable? And then mirror universe, I think, was the first thing we pitched, but we just didn't feel like we wanted to go there. It didn't feel satisfying, and then you go to Vash, you go to all these people, but the goal was it's a next generation reunion. And so in the back of your head, you go, Beverly, how could that possibly make sense? But the first person involved in this conversation is Patrick Stewart. And went over to his house to talk about it. And I had that in my back pocket, but I wasn't going to bring it up. And it was Patrick who said, with a smile, he lifted his glass of wine and he said, "What if it was Beverly?" And we never would have thought he would go there. And I said, but the first thing I said is, "Would you go there?" He goes, "I just think it would be so crazy." He said, "Fans would go bananas." I said they would. And so I go, I have to figure out how that could possibly make sense for both of those characters, because it doesn't really, right? And then when we walked away with it, we talked about it with writers. Why would she keep a son from him? The first thing for me that you go to is, she lost Wesley Crusher. She let her kid go off into the stars. I mean, that's got to do some psychological damage to a person to just let their son just leave their life, and then you start to dig into her husband and her mother, and then also this relationship. If you go back to how harsh Picard is to Wesley in those early seasons, and then how he feels about family. It seemed less contrived the more you talked about it. It's not going to feel good. It's not going to feel, it's going to feel messy. But that's what streaming drama is. Television evolves, right? So, and could you do it? And would it make for some really interesting scene work? And then as you see where the show goes, eventually you could feel good again about this family unit. You could earn it back. So that's where we went. But I feel like I'm derailing your thing here. I want you guys to be doing your thing. I don't want to
Terry, could I ask, was it ever discussed in the writers' room? Because obviously, after watching episode 1, I'm thinking, well, hang on, Ed Speleers is like 34. He was born in 1988. Hang on, 1988 was season 2 of Next Generation when Beverly was at Starfleet. Command. Did Beverly and John Luke get pregnant from the Naked Now when they were intoxicated?
It's
and then
such
she went
a
off
giant
to
retcon. It didn't feel the most we felt like we could establish was this 20-year gap. Look, I look at Ed Speleers. The guy looks amazing to me. I buy him in his young 20s. He looks better than I did in my 20s. He does look older. We looked at kids in their 20s, and you're not going to buy any of those actors up against Patrick Stewart.
Nope.
In a sit down, and we wanted somebody who could hold their own.
This is what I commented on earlier, is that one, he's really well written, and two, you picked a great actor to play him. Like he's got that charisma, he's got the cockiness, but then he can show that vulnerability to him as well when the situation calls for it, and just really versatile. And like you say, he can absolutely hold his own in just a one-on-one scene with Patrick Stewart.
And I gotta hand it to you that the fact that like by episode 2 you're like, yeah, that's his son. Like you didn't drag it out. It's like is that Picard's son?
To me, I think the second he says it at the end of the first episode. We never wanted to make it Nerdrotic.
Let's just bring everyone in. What the hell?
we never wanted to make it a oh my God, is it? There's a lot of the criticism was, well, they just run a DNA scan. I'm like, that's not what that second episode is about. Everybody knows it's Picard's son in the second episode. It's about a man in denial, is what the second episode is about. It's about him coming to terms with him saying out loud, he's my son. But going back to Ed Speleers, it was tremendously difficult to find an actor who we felt like could hold his own in these, like the next episode, as you'll see, that airs this week. It's all about those two, and Ed is phenomenal.
Speaking of phenomenal, so Will Wheaton was in the finale of last season as Wesley Crusher, and he comes back from the Travelers. And so I was just wondering, like, was there any discussion about bringing Will back for this season? Especially because like it's kind of his family too that's at the crux of this thing.
There was. Yes, there was. I can't talk about it. There's franchise stuff, but we definitely, absolutely. The other difficult aspect about it is he's a traveler. He's a god, right? So many of your narrative problems can be solved with, and that's tricky. And
I guess as well, you have to be aware of like diluting the narrative too much with like too many additional characters like that. It might distract the real focus there of that relationship between Picard and his son.
But if there's if you were ever to continue the story, I mean, that would absolutely, you'd want to see those two.
Yeah, I can see it now. Wesley comes back like a Q figure just to torture Picard for being a dick to him when he was a teenager.
I'd watch that.
Remember all the times you told me to shut up?
Yeah, he's just like, shut up, Jean-Luc. I think, I guess everyone's kind of tripping over themselves to ask you things, but I will monopolize the time just for a minute longer, and then I'll shut up. But the thing that was so gratifying about the season that we've seen so far is feeling like characters acting like themselves again, feeling like Jean-Luc Picard actually acts like Picard again. We talked about it briefly earlier. Like when people try to challenge him on things, he doesn't just roll over and apologize. He actually bites back and he stands up for himself and he calls them out at times. It's just so nice. It's so refreshing to see, you know, because we've been lacking that. The Picard that we've had in the past 2 seasons just doesn't feel like him. He doesn't feel like the man that we knew. But now it's like he's back, and thank you for bringing him back.
Well, I think, you know, I wonder if that has anything, if you're feeling that more by who he's surrounded with. You know, I wonder with if it helps to have him there with Riker. You know, if it helps to have them there with Beverly, if that helps, or maybe there's a voice thing. I don't know.
I
No, he
love
actually
the
acts like the
camaraderie
character,
with
though.
Riker, and again, this goes back to what I was saying there, where there's a scene where I think it's episode 2 where they've been brought aboard the Titan, and 7 of 9 starts giving Picard a bit of shit, and Riker just leaps to his, he just leaps into his defense, and he's like, "You're talking to an admiral right now, Missy, so you just watch your tone because I don't appreciate that one bit." And I just thought that's cool.
Reminding the Starfleet officer of rank in that moment.
But that's also what makes Shaw's introduction so great is because he basically puts Riker and Picard in their place just through mind games. That was the most perfect introduction to a new character I think I've seen, especially a foil to Picard. But to get to
Todd was so
I love
good.
that Todd has become a meme.
He's great. It's like he started dinner without them. You know, it just shows his complete lack of
No, Todd. I
respect
don't know
for
if
them.
you know. Todd did the Star Trek cruise recently, which is the big Star Trek convention on water, and he got to introduce the last episode on the cruise. And he stepped out in front of the audience, and I got to read you this because he sent me this text. I thought it was hilarious. He steps out and he comes out with his mic, and this is what Todd says. He goes, "Space. The final frontier. These are the continuing voyages of the Starship Titan, or they would have been continuing if it wasn't for Riker, Picard, and my first officer." and the crowd went crazy. That's Todd Savage. Todd said no one deserves to have this moment for Todd.
Yeah, but I love the fact that, so like in the first season of Picard, we got the sheer fucking hubris line where Picard was just being dressed down by every single ranking officer. And then in the second season, he kind of played second fiddle to Girardi and all these other characters. But in this season, it really does feel like he's back in charge. Like he's someone who, he's retired, but this is the Picard we remember. This is the guy who is a little bit closed off emotionally, and he's very much in command of the situation. Sometimes, because of his age, he kind of foibles it a little bit, but it does feel more authentic to the character we all grew up loving, as opposed to what we got in the previous 2 seasons, which seemed like it didn't seem like Picard, honestly. So I love it. I think that that getting back and surrounding him by the TNG crew is also helpful, but you can tell the difference where, especially in episode 2, where basically Picard has that look with Beverly, and just from that look, he knows that that's his son, Jax's son. And he just
Acting
instantly.
powerhouse.
I'm so
moment,
glad
that
that
one.
moment worked, because
Yeah.
if that
Oh
moment
my God.
didn't work, I was in so
Gates McFadden nailed it. She
That
nailed
moment
it.
was so perfect.
Yeah.
Carrie, let
And
me ask you
then
real quick.
Picard's just like, boom,
Let's talk
he's in
about
command.
de-aging real quick, because this is something that was going to come up on the show anyways. And I know that you went back far enough where you had to do something. What was the decision in how you guys decided to do that de-aging? I personally thought Riker looked great. Picard's voice kind of gave away a little bit of shakiness because of his age. I think it's hard to hide that, right?
You do what you can, right? So, I mean, the important part, there always has to be. I always feel like there needs to be an agreement with the audience here, right? Like even with Jack's age, like and again on Twitter's a fine example of who's going to come along with you and who's not. Like at some point you're like, hey guys, Jack is 23, right? And then most of the audience goes, yeah, wink, he's 23. But who knew I had a landline?
That's Paramount said, shut up, stop talking.
Get the fuck off that live stream right now.
But it's the same thing, like going back. I mean, the important thing was to tell a story about Riker when he had a kid, the moment he had a kid. And so that was so you're going back at a time where you want to show that, right? You're never going to do that great. But you got to do something. So we had like the agreement with all of us, with the visual effects people, it's like, do a little something. Let's not get crazy. It's never going to be awesome.
Could you have just
do enough to
and aged him up?
Right. So just do enough to show the audience it's what it's supposed to be, but like, let's get the spirit of the scene right, and I think that'll be right.
I've got a question for Terry, if you don't mind, and it's going to shift gears just a little bit, take the pressure off of talking about possible spoilers and stuff like that. In your opinion, as a writer working on this franchise, do you feel like we're ever going to get back to the episodic feeling that we get when we watch classic TNG or the original series? Like every episode is a new mission with some kind of an overarching story behind it, as opposed to like these 8-hour movies that we have today with every TV show out there.
Well, I think that's what Strange New Worlds is doing, right? I mean, that's certainly that's the North Star. Strange New Worlds is
Are we going to see more of that? Do you think?
I don't know. I don't work for Star Trek anymore, so I wouldn't be able to tell you. But
why are you not in charge of like all of Star Trek at this point?
Why haven't they?
We must do something about this.
We'll get all these new faces here.
Yeah, we got Dave and Gary here. Dave, Gary, how you guys doing?
Hey guys,
how's it going?
Hey, Dave, hey Gary. I think it's doing very well for Strange New Worlds. So, look, I think if you continued in this time period, I think you could absolutely. I think there's many great stories to tell in the 25th century that would be one-offs. A next generation in this world would be incredible.
I want to see a Shaw Titan series, like with his crew. I would watch the shit out of that.
I would watch that. I would watch that too.
Just him bitching at 7 of 9 and like
exactly.
Every day. That'd be great.
He's just constantly exasperated.
Yeah, 7 would take very much of that, but yeah.
What I really like about Shaw for me is that it feels like an entirely original character, which is wonderful, but there is something slightly Gregory Houseian about him that I really like. Does that make any sense?
That's a good analogy. Yeah.
Well, now that we've got everybody here, Gary, what are your thoughts on Picard season 3 so far? And,
what episode are we up to again? 3?
We're on 3 and I know.
We're on 3. So I'm loving it. I somehow saw a lot of it, and I'm going to say that I love where it goes. I would never dream of ruining it. And I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself, just in case there's somebody new here. That's part of YouTube. This is something I never thought we would get, like a goodbye. If anything, at the worst case scenario, Terry, I hope you take over forever, by the way.
Yes.
But this is like the little dessert that I never thought I would get with Star Trek The Next Generation, including the films, right? I don't hate all the movies as much as everybody else does. There's a couple of them I kind of like, but I think this is a massive win for fandom. Like, this is all we ever wanted, was just good Star Trek with recognizable characters.
I don't know if you know this, but you're on a panel right now filled with people who vehemently criticized Star Trek since the first season of Discovery, and you won all of us over. You won all of us over.
Yeah, look, I can't.
That is an amazing accomplishment.
Listen, I have to say that I don't agree with everybody on this panel about all Star Trek.
And that's
I
okay.
think, and that's okay, right? And it's the same thing with these franchises, right? I think that in the case of Star Wars and Marvel and Star Trek, there can be many different flavors of those things, right? And I wish that, but I do think, here's what I do think is helpful is that everybody gets their flavor. And I think maybe what might be apparent now is that there have been flavors that have been missing, maybe, and that's what is louder before. So, but but I think Star Trek is a wide swath of different kinds of things. Look, I haven't. There's some of the animation that I haven't even seen. I haven't seen all of Prodigy, and from what I'm told, it's some of the best Star Trek out there. I believe that. I believe that to be true. I don't know.
That's a good point. I think. Go ahead, Gary. You're going to say something.
Oh, I was going to say, I think as adults, we all understand the position you're in, Terry. You're working for Star Trek, making a Star Trek show that's really good. And I think we could focus on that. Everybody's got different tastes. Fandom has always understood that, and we've always argued and nitpicked. This is things we have done since the beginning, since before Star Trek was around, when people were arguing and nitpicking over H.P. Lovecraft or The Shadow. This is fandom. But what you have accomplished, my friend, is you've brought a lot of people together who were big doubters. We'll just say, just didn't think this could happen for my taste. Just for my taste, I'll speak for myself. And most everybody, you're not going to make everybody happy, but most everybody's pretty happy with this. And
well, I'll just say, Gary, I'll just say that I blame Robert, actually, because about a year ago, you were out on an island on your own, Robert, and I had absolutely no intention of watching this third season until it got your seal of approval, sir. So hats off to you.
Yeah, well done, man. Like,
well, I can call it like I see it.
You got Dave, and then the two of you got me, and then it just went from there.
Well, it's really, I mean, when it comes right down to it, it's what you want is a creator who cares. Nicholas Meyer didn't know anything about Star Trek when he took on the task of very quickly having to rewrite Star Trek 2 and come on board. But he is a consummate storyteller, and he understands classical storytelling from a literary standpoint and an education standpoint. So when he understood that it was Horatio Hornblower and it was nautical adventure, he was able to watch very quickly episodes of Star Trek and understand the paradigm and give us this rousing nautical adventure. And when you have people like Mr. Terry Matalas, who also has an innate storytelling sensibility, I've been going through his series 12 Monkeys, and I'm now up to the third season, and it works like clockwork. I mean, and it's so well thought out, and it's so well examined, and that's what Terry was able to do, which look, we want that from all of our entertainment. And I think the problem with Star Trek, it's been lacking a singular vision at the top. There's been a lot of disparate elements.
I can't have this particular. I respect all of your opinions about all this. I can't say that all those when you say there are many Star Trek creators that do care deeply about all this stuff. I can't agree with you there. I think, I know all of your works really well, and I know your positions and how you guys come at Star Trek Discovery and whatnot, and I can't stand by the things you say about those shows, because those shows are equally Star Trek. I'm also deeply appreciative that you have connected to this. What I do wish somehow is, and by the way, I've seen it on the other side as well. I know that your response to this has turned other people off to this. I wish there was a way
Well, I
for
mean,
Star Trek
but
people
don't you think
to
that
come together on all of this stuff. I do see what you. I wish there were another way to speak how you feel, which is that there is a tone that you feel is missing in Star Trek that you wish you saw more of, without disparaging what other people love about those other Star Treks. And
But
again,
if you look at
this is opening up a much more less celebratory conversation about Star Trek that I
It's a good
don't
conversation,
really wish to have.
Well, wait a second.
I'm
I
happy
think,
to talk about Picard season 3.
but if you look into the Next Generation's history, it really didn't. The Next Generation, they were searching for a proper tone, and really, it wasn't until season 3 and the addition of Michael Piller as the head writer, and he said, "Listen, what we really need to do is we need to approach our storytelling from our characters' point of view as opposed to an external force or threat or problem. All of our stories must be derived from our characters themselves." And once that approach was discovered, the Next Generation and that third season really started to hum. And it took 2 seasons to figure that out. And I don't think it's not disparaging to say that. It's just that, and Michael Piller was not involved in the first 2 seasons of Next Gen. His involvement suddenly was the missing ingredient, and then the series really sung.
Yeah, I think a lot of Star Trek shows start out a little rough because they haven't found their feet yet. Like TNG is a prime example of that. Season 1 is a little weird to start with, but by season 3, we start to understand these characters and we have a lot of fun with it. So I think there's wiggle room for shows to kind of find their footing.
Let's say this about it. Let's just put this to bed. We'll put a pin in it and we'll just say this. I think everybody here on the panel agrees that whatever iteration of Star Trek you like, that's your business. It's a free world, we all hope. And we're happy for you if you enjoy any version of Star Trek. It just so happens that Picard season 3 is the version of Star Trek we're really enjoying right now because it connects us with Legacy Trek. And if you look at this panel, there are no spring chickens here. So,
for yourself, Boomer.
For yourself.
Hey, you insulted all of us, sir.
Guilty.
I've got no gray hair.
So, I think celebrating the fact that this is what we really want is we want Star Trek to move on, I think, from the 25th century. And I think, without giving away any spoilers, hopefully you've talked about it before, Terry, at New York Comic Con, that you've set up this show to move forward into the future. What can you tell us about that? Because that's exciting.
Well, listen, look, I don't want to. This is hard for me. This is
sure
because it's because I've met some of you individually, and and I also have very good friends who feel strongly about some of you on the other side who are, what I wish there was Robert, you have said this when you took on Doomcock, and that which is a ridiculous name that that to say out loud is even a relevant thing. You said this one thing that I thought showed your heart, which was that you have very conservative friends and you have very liberal friends, and as long as you have common ground, there is a room for discussion, and there are ways to change mind. And I found that to be really moving. And I wish there was more of that, and I wish that Star Trek could be more of that. And that's all I will say. About all of this.
But I think it's celebratory, and what people also forget, and we tend to forget, is with long-running franchises, every new generation is going to discover the franchise as they themselves come to it. And modern Star Trek, especially the last since 2009, there's a lot of new fans, especially young fans. I came to Star Trek when I was 5 years old, and there was a kid who was 5 in 2009. There's a kid who's 5 today that is going to be watching Prodigy as their first Star Trek, which I think is a great thing.
Yeah,
and we should celebrate that always.
Yeah.
And you know, Star Trek has been a product of the time in which it was made, and it's 57 years old. And how many generations we should celebrate the fact that it is 57, you know, and it has inspired generations since the 1960s, and it's still doing so. Just like, you know, everybody has their favorite James Bond.
Yeah.
And what somebody finds in Star Trek today, they've grown up in a different world than I did, and they're going to see things in a very different way and through a different prism than I have. And I think your point, Terry, is very well taken.
No,
I do believe that Star Trek has always attracted all different kinds of people.
And
How
it
many other
should,
franchises
and we
would
should
say that?
celebrate making it for as many people as possible. And if there's differing opinions, at least talk to other people. Don't cut other people off. You know, that's what, you know, if one of us makes a mistake, I'll speak for myself. I'll talk to anybody.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I don't care what your politics are. I talk to you, but we could vehemently disagree about a TV show. So what? You know, like we could still be fans. And I think. Go on.
No, I was going to say, if I can bring it back to season 3 of Picard, I don't want to get steeped in politics and infighting with the fan base and stuff. So Terry, can you tell me what kind of collaboration did you have with Franks and Stewart to create these characters and have those moments that we're all gushing over, like that was so good, these moments are amazing? Like I feel like there had to have been a sit down with them in a writing room saying, how would your characters act, what do you guys want to put into this, and how can we best serve these characters?
I mean, early on I took them, well, specifically in this, you're talking about this episode, I took them out to lunch and said I want to do Crimson Tide. I had to explain what that meant. They were both on board with the idea of conflict because they didn't get to do very much of that during Next Generation. And so I after, by the time the lunch was over, they both had signed off of it. I think once the script came out, and I think there was some unease as to how hardcore it got certainly by the end of that script. Mm-hmm. But then by the time the 4th script comes out, I mean, early on, as you'll see, Riker addresses his sort of breakdown, you know. So it's not for long, you know. People sort of are like, you know, I get a lot of tweets. Are they going to talk about this? Or are they going to make up? And it's like, there's 7 more episodes. I think they're going to be okay. So, but yeah, I mean, a lot. You know, again, it's these actors know their characters better than I am ever going to. They've been talking about their characters in conventions for 30 years. So if they don't feel comfortable, there's something wrong. You know, certainly there's the other perspective of as a fan, right? You know, so there are intense discussions that go on where you're like, actually, I think this, and they're like, what? And you're like, yes, because of blood. I see it this way because this is the perspective of a fan. So that helps color the direction, but it is a collaboration for sure.
Terry, I'm curious, just continuing on that thread, because we talk about fan reactions, but I'm really curious to the TNG cast's reactions to all of this, because you've given all 7 of them really fantastic stuff to do and to go deeper with their characters than ever before on the shows or in the films. Did they get a sense either when reading it or certainly performing it, and now that it's over and it's out there and people are appreciating it, they must be seeing these reactions. Do they get a sense of the weight, of the magnitude of what they've been part of now when they speak to you?
The cast?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It's very strange. I mean, it's very strange from the perspective of me being the kid who used to watch them on television, and they're not that to me anymore. They're this weird family that you go out to dinner with. It's no longer Riker and Troy. It's Marina and Frakes, and so you get text from them, and but so much, and then there's characters we haven't seen yet. Wait till you see LeVar in this thing. I mean, LeVar is so good. And Marina,
it truly gets better as time goes on. So much better. And Marina's got this killer, one of my favorite Troy Riker scenes. And I don't think Worf's ever been better. I don't think Michael's ever been better.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of Worf and Rafi, this is something I wanted to bring up because we haven't really talked about a lot. What was the idea in pairing those two characters together? And because Rafi's the one holdover that's not a legacy character, what was the idea in bringing those two characters together to forward the story?
I just thought it would be really. I just had a feeling they might have really great chemistry. I kind of wanted to reinvent Rafi a little bit, a lot actually, and there was this line dropped in earlier. I think it was season 1 about her working for Starfleet Intelligence, and I was like, that's a really interesting idea to go and explore. And she's a little bit isolated, which is a good criticism, I think, of some of those earlier episodes. We couldn't get to Michael any sooner for a host of reasons. But the idea of her playing good cop, bad cop in an interrogation, but she's the bad cop with Worf, felt like if we could pull it off, would be really satisfying. And who would be? I guess Worf is the straight man in that duo. I don't know. We just felt like it could work. And they have a scene by the end of this thing that really chokes me up, which is surprising. These two characters, one of their final scenes really is really strong. They're great.
Can I just say as well, like Worf was one of the most pleasant surprises in this for me, because I know there was talk, when the series was just gearing up, that Worf's a pacifist now, and like I think people reacted really badly to that, like assuming the worst. And it's when you actually see him in action, he's not really like, I could best describe it, he's more like a Shaolin monk or something. Like he's found a degree of like control that he didn't have before. But when it comes to like slashing people up, he's more than happy to just carry
it's
on
like
with
it's like it's more effective now.
It's
just refined it.
It's
much
great
better
to see.
about it.
Again, it's like this could have gone really badly wrong if it was handled a little bit differently. And again, it's just
I'm glad to hear it, because we weren't sure if it was gonna work. I mean, again, it's that thing where you want to do something new, right? You don't want, it's 20 years, the character has to change, but you don't want him to change too much. When the trailer came out and we put that line in because we thought it was a great line, which was, Captain Riker, you should know I'm a pacifist now. We thought people were just gonna laugh. We thought they would see the giant sword on his back because he's got a giant anime-sized sword. But people got really mad. I don't know if it was because of a reaction of seasons 1 and 2, or that they felt like we were radically transforming Worf. But it could have gone that way. So I'm
think
glad
the fandoms,
to see, again, and
very
even the monologue in this episode 3, I'm Worf, son of Mo, blah 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 blah. I've made some chamomile tea. You're either gonna love that line or you're gonna hate it. And so, look, that's the scary part of doing anything with legacy characters. You know,
Terry, was there much debate in the art department and everything in terms of Worf's new look for this season? Obviously, he's a lot whiter than I guess everybody anticipated he would be. Was there a lot of toing and froing in terms of that changed appearance for Worf?
Not really.
No.
He needed to look like Worf. I think the biggest aspect of it was the white hair. We went back, obviously we knew that white hair would look slightly older than what Klingons normally look, but we just went Steve Martin and called it a day. It never was a thing. It never, and people were upset about that too. He's much whiter than a Klingon. We just
I think it adds an element of a really cool element to it.
It just he looks great.
He looks like the Kung Fu Master from Kill Bill,
Pay Kill Bill, pay Meyer.
It looks like that.
Gray. I mean, Riker's got a gray beard, and we had too much gray and same with LeVar. We already had that look, but when you made it white, he suddenly popped and just looked so cool. So we're like, that's the thing. And the sword, and then the wardrobe is just spot on. We just got really lucky.
Are we going to get a 1/6 scale of that? Because I want.
I cannot say is in the works.
Terry, speaking of pleasant surprises, so as a DS9 fan, that's my favorite Star Trek series. When it was revealed that the shifters were the bad guys and it was the Dominion, I was so overjoyed because I was like, yes, we're getting back to the good stuff. And the first 2 seasons of Picard, it was very Borg heavy, and I was just glad to see us move away from Borg stuff. What was the inspiration for bringing the Dominion back into the show?
I mean, the Changelings are incredible villains. There were two things. I have to sign off pretty soon because I have to do real work. But I did think about the conspiracy bugs. I really did like the conspiracy bugs. The problem with the conspiracy bugs is they kill their host, so you would never be able to have 2 of them. You'd never be able to have the paranoia thriller. So and then the Changelings are just phenomenal, and then the backstory of the Changelings, as you'll see, of how that story ended is, I don't want to give anything away, but I mean, look, the end of the Dominion War is really messy.
Right.
Great.
Great message.
And it gave you so much drama. So
yeah, coming up with the idea for a splinter faction off of the Great Link, who came up with that? Was really a pretty smart way of
a terrorist faction. I love it.
And also the nod to Odo, which I think everybody, without saying it overtly, was just such wonderful respect to Rene Auberjonois as well.
Yeah, if you look closely in this next episode, you'll actually see him.
Nice.
Oh, wow. Easter egg.
Terry, I wanted to ask you, Frakes, everyone's loved Frakes. He's killing it. Now, he directed 17 Seconds in the upcoming episode, No Win Scenario. What's it like watching him direct himself? And how did you help him craft this performance at all? Because he's so good. He must have been having just a ball on set, but he's never been better. What was it like watching him create that performance for himself?
Frakes is dauntless. He's tremendously energetic. Will literally walk on a set, no joke, and he'll be like, "Red alert, armed torpedoes," and he hasn't started rolling. He's got his coffee. He loves the process. He loves people. He's a people pleaser. He knows everyone by name. This is not a joke. Every aspect of this is joyful for him, and I don't know how he does it, because it's not for me. He manages to he's able to just be able to go back and forth with ease. When he's Riker, we can watch and be like, hey, you're gonna want to do a little bit more of this, a little bit more of that, and he'll jump right on it. He's also egoless too in that regard. You can give him a straight up line read, which is a big no for any actor. Most people would slap you across the face for even trying something like that. Like, you could be like, I think you want more of this. He'll just be like, just tell me, say the line how you want to hear it. And I'll be like, oh, that's what it was. Yeah, I'll do that. And he's phenomenal. I think this next episode, 304, is the best thing Frakes has ever done. And First Contact is one of my favorite movies. I don't know how he managed to pull off being in this next episode as much as he's in and directing it.
Yeah, and that was what I really.
It's
really
very,
phenomenal
as you'll see how it's cut, it's very intricate. He didn't miss a single beat.
Guys, just before we go on, I'm unfortunately going to have to drop out. I'm kind of out of time.
Drinker, my friend, thank you for being here.
I got to drop pretty soon too.
Thank you, Drinker. Appreciate you coming on. If you guys make sure you check out
Drinker.
Drinker, he has the best takes, the best videos. Make sure you check him out, and hopefully we'll have you back again next time. Thanks, Drinker. And also Dave Cullen's bowing out. He's you guys, it's late over there for you guys. So thank you for guys coming on, and let's do it again soon, hopefully.
Thank you.
Guys, look, I've only seen the first 10 episodes of this season. I'm really looking forward to number 11. Terry, can't wait. Don't spoil it for me, okay? So,
so speaking of what Dave just said there, Terry, if they do ask you to do more Star Trek, what do you want to do? Do you want to do more? What's the story?
Yeah, I can't. I would love nothing more than to do more Star Trek, but it's entirely out of my hands. It's up to Paramount, and Alex Kurtzman is in charge of the franchise. I would love to stay in the 25th century. I think there's more to do there, but I think there's I know there's lots of Star Trek in the works, and so probably have to fit in with that. And I think it's also up to the fans too to decide. So.
So I just want to say, man, it's been awesome of you to come on this tonight and talk to us.
Well, thanks. Well, I mean, Brian and Shane, they have been so sweet, and listen, weirdness aside, I appreciate all of you for the kind words about this season, and it means a lot to hear it. Like we worked really, really fucking hard on this season. We put our heart and souls in it, and we made it for all of you. We made it for everybody. And so to see people respond to it in this way I can't even tell you what it means to us.
We're so glad. It's the greatest. I mean, in our opinion, like we've said, it's the greatest season of Star Trek in at least 25 years. You make us all very proud. Everybody in this panel, at some point, those of you who've seen enough of it, there's an emotional time coming. I'm not ashamed to say that it made me very emotional watching this series, and I just got to tell you, thank you for giving me and the rest of us something this joyous. And
thank you.
Very sweet.
He cries like a baby.
Yeah. I do. I can't help it.
You're all very kind. Robert, your puppies are amazing. You should be putting them on the stream. You'll get.
You want them on the stream right now?
Oh, no, here we go. He's going again. He's going to puppy camp.
All right, I'm bopping off. Enjoy the puppies, everybody.
Later, Terry.
Thank you, Terry.
You're awesome, Terry. Thank you.
Later, guys. I'm going to sign off too.
Later.
Been a pleasure.
Later, Drinker.
See you, Drinker.
I'm just going to say this. After I came on the stream, Terry, Nerdrotic, Robert, and Dave all decided they were so excited to see me on the show.
That's what it was.
That's true.
They wanted to hop in.
Yeah,
That's true.
I was
They're like,
on
wait,
top
Matthew
dude,
Kadish
guys.
is on the stream. Let me get on.
Are we going to get James Mangold on next? I think
We should. We should.
Try. Yeah.
Yes.
I've reached out to him
Have you
already.
got? Are you going to bring Kurtzman on now?
Get Will Wheaton on here, goddammit.
Oh God.
him and Gary go to blows, we'd have problems.
All right, guys. Thanks so much. I'm gonna bounce. I'm gonna bounce.
Thanks, Dave.
Take
Good
care.
seeing you, brother, Dave.
See you, Dave.
I emailed you, by the way.
Now that Terry's gone, we can talk about some of the other good stuff. So, you guys, I got a question for you. So, Paramount, with Discovery being canceled now after it's going to have 5 seasons, and Paramount issuing all this information about their need to cut back. 2023 is going to be the peak of their streaming, and they've lost, I think, $56 million in the fourth quarter.
Yep.
What do you guys think this is going to do shaping Star Trek moving forward? And do you guys think that they're going to save enough money for Terry to be able to do a new series for us?
If they were smart, yes.
Yeah.
If they were smart, they'd be just, quietly ending everything else and handing him the keys and moving things forward. Because I mean, we all wanted Star Trek to move forward, and he did it. This is a freaking miracle what he pulled off. This is stuff of legend. Wait till you see the rest to know what I'm talking about. But
Legendary.
I didn't think you could turn things around like this. I didn't think it was possible. Tons I'm not saying it saved anything. This is my opinion, by the way, not the opinion of anybody else. You got to say that. This is my opinion. I don't think it saved Star Trek, but it could if some business people made the right decisions. Right, Robert?
Well, look, here's been my problem with Star Trek since 2009. Star Trek has always been a niche franchise. And now with the talk of IP and with things like even the Transformers franchise at Paramount, although it was done by DreamWorks, ended up making $1 billion. A lot of those movies made $1 billion each. And that's what they wanted for Star Trek. When they did Star Trek 09, that's what they were expecting to get. And it never really earned out. None of those movies made over $500 million. What they need to do is they need to figure out, here's the genius thing of what Terry Matalas has done from a production standpoint. He made essentially a bottle series where so much of it, he took Star Trek back to its roots, which was set it on a starship, created what literally is an epic story, but kept it very contained from a production standpoint, meaning you're shooting on standing sets for multiple episodes. So you're able to keep the costs down. And they were able to do that and reuse things from season 2. And one of the things that Star Trek had in the Berman era was because it was always shot at the Paramount Studios. I mean, the Voyager engineering section, the intermix chamber, was from Star Trek the Motion Picture. And they were able to cannibalize all this stuff. And Star Trek as a viable franchise moving forward must be made less expensively. And Terry did a phenomenal job, a brilliant idea, because he had to keep costs down. They can't go out on location and shoot like they did season 2, and you build your standing sets in Santa Clarita. And we've seen 4 episodes, Starship Combat. Most of the time it's been in these contained areas. Even the sets from Matalas, you get you outside the planet Matalas. I mean, not Terry Matalas, the planet Matalas, which, by the way, was established in Enterprise. You get outside and you have some scope there, and then the rest of the show is fairly contained. And it's genius how they keep going back to. I know the 10 Forward name is dumb, but they had the bar, they had Guinan's bar, and they used that set a lot throughout the show. And you'll see they use it more in a very effective way moving forward. And what that is great producing. So that's what Star Trek needs. It needs a deft hand to make sure that they're not overspending. And I think Terry did a brilliant idea by really, I can't reiterate it enough, setting so much of the season on board the Titan. It was a genius way to go.
You know what's even more impressive from a production standpoint is that he was literally on a panel with some of the harshest critics of modern day Star Trek. and he had won each and every one of us over.
Legitimately.
Like that is something that no one else probably could have done.
The fact that he came on this stream to begin with and to
Yeah.
talk directly to fans who have been critical. I mean, you do not see that from anybody else out there
Never.
in Hollywood.
Don't.
Never
No.
see that.
Ever,
That alone,
ever.
that alone sets him apart from anybody else.
Yeah,
might
that
tell
speaks
for
a lot.
And listen, that's part of what we have to deal with, and that's not the fans' fault. It's not my fault. It's not Salty Nerd's fault or Shane or Matthew. It is what has been introduced in our entertainment in the past, and there's a lot of damage from that. And it's gonna, like, we can't just pretend it didn't happen. All right, There's been a lot of damage to fandom, and it's going to take some repairing. This is a step forward in repairing that. In repairing and like,
I
and
wish
seeing
someone
if we
from
still
Star
have
Wars
fandom.
would do that.
Yeah,
Right?
Someone
And
from
it's
Star
real.
Wars-
Well,
I was begging
but
for people to do this
can-
3 years ago, Matthew.
Can you
I was
imagine, like,
talk to somebody, you know?
John Favreau or something hopping on a YouTube channel and talking about, how their reaction to freaking Baby Yoda or whatever. It'd be
Yeah,
nuts.
right?
You'd never
Yeah.
see it.
No, he's too much of a. He's like because he was an actor before he was a producer. He's very celebrity minded.
Well, I should specify anybody from Lucasfilm. Just name a name.
Yeah,
Anybody from
as-
Lucasfilm.
Yeah.
As time has progressed, particularly in the last 3 years, there has been people reaching out, but they can't do it publicly. They cannot. They will get fired. Absolutely. And
Right.
I don't want to get anybody fired. That's the last thing I want. I don't want to get in any big trouble, but quietly, people have emailed me or Jeremy or Ryan or
Same.
Drinker, you guys, all of us. We get the, hey, I'm a production designer on so and so, and you know what you guys are saying.
Look,
Like
I'd get
it's
Ryan Johnson fired. I wouldn't.
Well, it really says a lot about Terry coming on here, to talk about it, because, there are people who look at us as, if we don't like all of Star Trek, then we don't love Star Trek. And here's what I would say to those people. And I can see the lines of division coming. And I would just beg all Star Trek fans not to do what our political climate is doing across this globe, which is once you see people you don't always agree with lining up on something, that you put yourself on the other side of that battle. What Star Trek needs right now is all the fans to come together over something that everybody loves. And what I've seen is so far everybody likes, except for maybe Doomcock's guys, everybody likes season 3.
So Robert's absolutely
Well,
Robert's absolutely right about the cost of this stuff, because traditionally the reason Star Trek has been such a huge boon for Paramount is that they were able to make those movies for like 30 million, and they would always make 3 times their budget back.
Yep.
And then once JJ came along and he's like, we're going to make this into Star Wars, and we're going to spend like $100-200 million per movie. That just wasn't sustainable, because there is a niche audience, but that niche audience is so loyal and fervent that they'll consume anything. Like even the people who didn't like Discovery, I gave it at least 3 seasons. I hung in there for that. I gave Picard 2 seasons, even though it was torture watching.
Dude,
that.
I hung in there until the burn. When they said
the burn.
no one can travel on warp anymore because there's no dilithium. I'm like, wait a minute. That's not how Star Trek works.
Oh, wait. Did you find out what caused it?
Yeah.
It was even worse.
That was even worse.
Yeah.
Let's say we can't travel warp because we don't have dilithium. Well, then how did Zephyr Cochrane invent dilithium? I mean, warp speed. When there was no dilithium on Earth.
I mean, I think in terms of what we're talking about
I think
before, in terms of
Terry's
budget,
point is
cost
well
saving
taken, though.
Nick, go ahead.
elements, is that Star Trek at its core, we don't need every episode to be galactic ending events. And that's where I think it got lost a little bit.
Yep.
It just became the studios, what how do we raise the stakes higher and higher and higher? And you can't sustain that.
Yeah,
and Star
that's
Trek,
one of the.
as we all know, has always been at its best when the story is kept small, more intimate, more emotional. Characters we love, characters we care about. We don't need the entire galaxy to blow up. That's not what Star Trek is about.
That's one of the reasons why I wanted to ask him about the possibility of going back to that, weekly format instead of this every season is some world-ending, 8-hour movie. That those episodic plot lines are what made Star Trek last so long and what makes you tune in every single week.
Yeah. Some of the best episodes have been the smaller ones, you know?
Yeah. When it's confined to a certain location or a certain room and it's only like 2 or 3 characters talking and they're working out a problem, like that's when Star Trek shines, I believe.
Well, also,
look at the
when
scene
it
with
shines,
Picard and Beverly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when it shines
this
is when the
last
characters
episode.
take center stage, right? Like I remember in Discovery, the first 2 seasons, you didn't know any of the bridge crew. It was all Michael Burnham and
we still
George
don't.
Yeah. But like if you look at Picard season 3, like we're 3 episodes into like basically a 10 episode movie, and we've learned about some of the bridge crew, right? Like we recognize them, like they're familiar. We know Crash LaForge, we know 7 of 9, we know Captain Shaw, we know all these like minor characters. And we care about them. And Strange New Worlds was the same way. Like we learned who the bridge crew was there, and those characters hook us into the show. Whereas the previous stuff from Discovery, like we didn't know any of the characters. There was like, if you didn't like Burnham, you couldn't get hooked into that show.
I think your point.
I still couldn't tell you anything about Detmer, Reese, Bryce, whatever the other name. Like, it's like I couldn't tell you anything about those characters, and the show's been going for 4 seasons. So you know,
who are you talking about?
What does that say,
Robert?
The bridge crew on Discovery. I
didn't know their name.
Anything about them? Yeah,
Detmer's the redhead.
Well, what I was going to say about what Terry did with the bridge crew of the Titan, and the next episode will endear all of them to you.
Mm-hmm.
They're really, I think they're really well cast. They're all very interesting. They look like they really know what they're doing, you know. And again, that bridge crew is that crew, that secondary crew. I want to hang out with them more.
Yeah,
and that's a pretty great.
I don't like the Doctor though. The Doctor is kind of shit. So.
well, remember though, they had to put her at odds with Beverly.
Yeah,
you know.
They're gonna replace her with a hologram eventually. Anyway, it's fine.
Right.
Yeah. And remember, she's a Trill, so God knows how many other lives she's had as a Doctor. So she's probably a massive know-it-all and thinks that she knows 20 times more than Beverly does. You know.
Well, something else we have to consider. Another good reason why bringing Terry back to showrun for another season, with Paramount, basically being poor. What most people may not realize is that Picard season 3 was done on a shoestring budget.
Yes.
Compared to what they paid for Picard season 1 and 2 and Discovery, all of their seasons, he came in really cheap with this show. Rob, can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly, the one thing you'll never hear people talk about is their budgets and things like that. But yeah, I mean, he had to by that was his mandate. And I think that they, again, when I was speaking about making a bottle series and keeping the show contained where you're shooting on sets. And I mean, I don't know, I didn't ask Terry this, but like the La Serena where Worf and, Rios' ship from season 1 and 2, I don't know if Vadic's ship was a redress of the La Serena set.
It was, Robert. It was the downstairs section of the La Serena where it was the sort of the kitchen, the galley. It was the bridge of the Shrike was a redress.
Star Trek, the original series did that really well. They have to take that mentality and do more of that, and that's the way that's the way you get these different ships. So you've got the Titan, you've got the Shrike, you've got the La Serena, you've got shuttlecraft, whatever. So that's a really cool way, and those are all sets. And while there's visual effects involved, it's on a set, it's on a stage, and so that in itself keeps the work much cheaper. And what's interesting is that's what people want anyway. They want a ship-based adventure show, and the thing about it is the way to do that is to write great characters, and having people like Stashwick and if you look, people keep asking me, well, Rob, the people that don't like Star Trek 3 or the season Picard season 3, when does it get better? And I'm like, what do you mean? The scene between Beverly and Picard was a banger. I mean, that's something you've wanted to see happen their entire relationship. I mean, you finally get these people talking to each other like they're real people. Not like they're archetypes.
Rob, what are you doing right now? Can you explain? Everybody is curious as to what your situation is.
Rob is laying it upside down.
I'm on puppy duty.
So you're on puppy duty. Are you milking the puppies?
Well, no. Here's the thing. We have our bigger dogs that are outside that can't come in, and they're freaked out that they can't come in. Then we've got our mama dog here who gets freaked out that the bigger dogs are barking, and everyone else is gone. So I am sitting here. It was very funny. I come in, I turn on the TV, and this live stream was the first thing that popped up, and I'm like, oh, cool. I'm taking over to do because I'm going to do a big Star Trek stream tonight. So I'm just like chilling, and I don't have my normal, my cameras and my computer to stream from. That's why I said I can't come on. But then you sent me the link, and I'm like, I can't miss this. This is like the biggest Star Trek party of the year.
I know, right?
I mean, I could stand up like this. I could have the puppies right here.
There you go. That's better.
That's way better.
Is that better?
Yeah.
That's better.
Now put your head a bit lower so they all lick your face, and then we got something going on.
So Gary, what Star Trek do we need moving forward from here? What's the fan base? What do we need to have going forward from now on?
More of this. I don't know how much I can say. I can't say.
Yeah, you need to be careful.
Well, Terry already
I need
set
to
us
be
up
really
that
careful.
He set up the season to continue. He did say the next
so
generation.
he did say that out loud. All right.
Yeah.
So there is a setup that I would love to see. I would be looking forward to it. I do videos on it. I'd buy the soundtrack. I'd watch, and I think it would be really good, Salty, to do an episodic series on. I think it would be set up perfectly for that. Yeah. And it could be just Star Trek. That's all we've ever asked for. By the way, it's just Star Trek. Okay,
Star Trek needs to move forward.
Jesus,
I mean, Discovery and Strange New Worlds are prequels, and one of the great things about Star Trek is it takes what's going on in science and technology of the time and extrapolates that out hundreds of years. And we have really interesting questions in our society now. Bioethics, for instance. I was listening to a story this morning about how poplar trees are being genetically engineered to deal with carbon monoxide in the air. And there's a lot of ethical considerations about whether that should be done or not. I mean, what about an episode when somebody bioengineered their entire biosphere and it turned on them?
Yeah. But it all comes down to Kurtzman, though, right? Like Kurtzman at a certain point has to be like, okay, I'm not hiring Kiva Goldsman anymore. I want to hire Terry Matalas to kind of move forward with this while I go off and do my movies. So like, how do we convince someone like Gary Kurtzman, who doesn't care about the fan base, obviously, to shift gears and hire this successor who everyone loves?
Well, it has to be, look, the success only comes with the analytics, the viewership, subscriptions. I mean, unfortunately, that's what success is in Hollywood. There's no box office here. There's subscriptions. There's viewership. There's engagement. I mean, I think we can all, being that we're all on the internet, we all can see. I haven't seen this much engagement, not even with Strange New Worlds. But then again, I'm in our own echo chamber of fans. I don't know what the Strange New Worlds engagement was outside of our communities, but it seems to me like the weekly people are talking about this show. I'm seeing reviews. Everybody's doing reviews. I've never wanted to do a review show of modern Star Trek. I do now. So hopefully it'll translate over into, because like Terry said, he's sort of at the mercy of Alex Kurtzman, to be fair, he went off and did his pretty interesting remake sequel to The Man Who Fell to Earth, based on Walter Tevis's novel, and it's sort of a continuation of Nicholas Roeg's film that starred David Bowie. So Terry was able to step in and shape this show because Alex Kurtzman let him do it, because yes, Kurtzman wanted to do something else, but I could see that happening more. The Kurtzman's company, he probably wants to go off and do his own thing, and he did, so Terry hopefully could continue, maybe. And Alex Kurtzman did allow Terry Matalas to make this season.
It's true.
That's true.
So
yeah, no, you have to also consider the fact that that when Kurtzman's making Star Trek, he doesn't have the legacy connection that Terry does, and so it's not really fair. I mean, he's trying to make good Star Trek, but the way he thinks it should be made, he just doesn't really understand Star Trek the way Gene Roddenberry, Disciple, or Rick Berman, and coming from that school. And Terry comes from that pedigree of Star Trek. And I think that you feel that in Picard season 3. What we need to do, and we do have, by the way, there's a petition going on right now. You can get to it at terrytrek.com. And what it is basically is a petition that we've got going, that Terry's approved, that the actors are retweeting, and that everybody's supporting, and it actually supports encouraging Terry to be able to do another season of Star Trek. We really just need to get the attention of the studio, just like they did with Strange New Worlds. Let them know that we want a new series going forward, and we want Terry to be making that series. And I think that's part of the key here is we just need to continue doing what we're doing, being resilient about it, and talking about it as much as we can. And I think they'll get it. What do you guys think?
I totally agree. I think the fans' reaction is going to drive more eyes to this series, and us talking about it all the time and talking about how great Terry is at recreating what we loved about Star Trek. Personally, for myself, I know, like Gary said, you got to talk only for yourself, but us fans have to shout from the rooftops that we like this. This is what we want, and that's going to show the
Strange New Worlds, right?
Yeah, that's going to show the studio, oh, this is what's getting the reaction. This is what's getting the numbers. Let's lean in this direction, as opposed to if we go like, oh, everything sucks, I'm not going to watch anything that you make because of these other shows that I don't like, then they're going to say, well, I'm not going to bother trying to please you anyway. I'm going to go do something else.
Exactly. That's why there's a massive uphill. Hail Terry Trek, by the way. This is a massive uphill battle. It is on both sides, right? So you got fans like, I'm not going to blame any fan for being out. If you're out, you're out. Like, I got you. But for the people who are in, then you have it brought over some fans back that the producers might have a problem with. You know what I mean? Like Terry, I felt so bad, but like Terry coming on the stream, and I'm on the stream with him. It's like I'm worried. It's like, is that gonna get,
can you imagine if Doomcock was on the stream with him?
With Drinker and stuff.
But he should have been. He should have been on the stream with us.
That's what I was trying to get to earlier when he was on, guys. The conversation we were having I thought was important. And I know it seemed like Terry was getting a little bit concerned because he would. But I got to tell you, that was good for us to have that conversation, because one of the problems that we have right now is that people aren't willing to talk about the thing that's uncomfortable. Exactly. And we're all on the same page when it comes to individual. We're not against anybody who likes Star Trek that we don't like, right?
Right. My phone is about to die. I just wanted you to know if it died right when you finished that sentence. I didn't want you to think that I was making a statement.
Okay. But if people don't like what I say or how I say it, and say it to me, I will not get butthurt. I like, Hollywood does need to grow a much thicker skin. I know these are very sensitive creatives, Robert. I understand that, but we are in a new era, dude. We are in the social media era. They need to grow a sack of balls a little bit. That's all I got to say about that. People are going to be critical of stuff. Okay. We always have been. You could just hear it more now. This is no different than it was 20 years ago.
It's the same. Yeah. It's just more prevalent.
I mean, what's interesting too, Gary, you passed, congratulations, 700,000 subscribers. The Drinker on his main channel has over 1 million.
Yeah.
I mean, the CW Arrowverse shows were not getting 1 million views every episode.
That's true.
And how much money were they spending? And these shows, what I'm fascinated by is allocations of time. A movie is 2 hours, 90 minutes or 2 hours. A streaming series is an hour. People are just as entertained by an hour of watching any of our live streams as they are by entertainment that's costing millions of dollars. And this should be problematic for Hollywood, because they really have to start thinking, well, wait a minute. How should we be allocating our money? What is our best use of time? And when you see somebody like Paramount Plus is getting huge numbers from a Taylor Sheridan show like Yellowstone or 1923 or 1888, the studio is asking themselves, well, shit, man, where are we putting our money?
Mm-hmm.
And what they have to do is Star Trek needs to be generating revenue and through views, through social engagement. And if it's not, it will go away. And the only way it's going to stick around is look at all the great TV series we're getting. on many different levels. Take your pick. There's so much great programming. If Star Trek isn't up to snuff, it's not going to survive in the current streaming ecosystem that is going to weed out the mediocrity.
No, and Star Trek survived so long by licensing, for one, something they've completely taken away. And maybe if they go back to that in some way, licensing it to other streamers, because I don't think it's, you just talked about the Sheridan verse, which I got sucked into that rabbit hole and I like it. But it's making a lot of money, but Paramount Plus is not making any money. So that's insane.
No.
Yeah, they're losing money. It's crazy.
Yep. Losing a lot of money. Hey, you got super chats real quick. There's so many of them, I was actually losing track. So I just gathered them all. Sorry.
How do you big channels deal with all these super chats?
I don't know how you guys even deal with this. All right. Starting with
how do I deal with making money? Oh my god.
Not used to making any money. I'm sorry. 200 Watt Studio says, I think they will discuss what happened on the bridge like Worf and Data did when Worf did the same thing to Data when he was captain.
Are they talking about the argument?
Yeah.
No, they stay pissed at each other the rest of the show. They don't even speak.
Yeah, the rest of the show, they're just angry at each other.
Yeah, it's just like Riker and Picard don't say another word to each other.
You got a good thought there. Lost for words, not watching a Trek series since DS9 Picard 1 and 2. Sounded like a nightmare for any Trek fan. Picard season 3 has been amazing. Hail Terry for a great job. Thank you.
Yeah, Terry's getting a lot more praise. It's funny. We did a video that talked about, we tried to break down the whole thing, what's happened, what's moving forward. We tried to do this big video and he's getting a lot of praise for this from fans that ordinarily wouldn't. And I don't think that's lost on anything that's happening here.
I know what he's doing that's really smart though, is so I follow him on Twitter and if somebody has a problem with the show, he doesn't attack them. He doesn't call them man babies.
No,
he doesn't push back. He either ignores them or he just says sorry you feel that way, but hang in there, it gets better.
Yes.
And then he amplifies the positive stuff too. So there's been this really bad trend in Hollywood lately where it's if the fans don't like something, the fans have to be attacked. And Marvel, Lucasfilm, they all do this stuff. Sony, started all with Ghostbusters 2016. They started this trend. And every time someone goes against that, for instance, Alex's boyfriend, the guy who did the Jurassic Park movies, I forget his name.
Colin Trevorrow?
Yeah, Colin Trevorrow. He, when people tried to come after him, he was just like, hey, we're going to stay positive about this. We're not going to attack fans. And people responded to that. And Terry's doing the same thing. He's doing the smart outreach where it's make the enemy your friend. Even if they disagree with you, they will still support you. And I think that's what he did. It's very,
I think you're
smart.
Right. And I wanted to point out that he's basically one of us. He's a big nerd that's about all of our age. And he went out and did something we all want to do. Don't we wish we all could go out and make the Star Trek we wanted to make? I mean, that's
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And Terry wants to make other things. I don't know if any of you are Robotech fans or like Macross. That would be a dream project. They've been trying to make the Macross movie for 3 decades.
How come Voltron never
give
gets
it to Terry to do a live action TV series?
That'd be cool.
I'm sorry, I just noticed Brian just swinging back freaking Jim.
Yes. Super chat from Christopher Mays, but you call me out, bro. What's up, then?
Sorry, man. No hard feelings. I got mine right here.
My throat's so messed up. Thank you for this wonderful panel, and to Terry for giving me a Star Trek show I love. Thank you. Star Trek show I love. Sorry. Thank you, Christopher Mays. I appreciate that.
Terry was put in a tough position. He took it and he ran with it. And again, I don't know how many people in Hollywood could do what he did. Have the balls
Especially
to do what he did.
Those first 2 seasons of Picard.
Yeah,
those were some of the worst Star Trek I've ever seen.
It is some of the worst television I've ever seen.
No, they were better than Discovery.
Yes, they're better than Discovery.
I don't want to.
It's not a high bar.
Okay, it's not a high bar. More damaging to lore, sure. Picard. That's why I think Picard is worse, because it's to me it's the Last Jedi. But Star Trek Discovery is objectively worse written. Everything about it, you're right.
The burn, bro. Detaching the cells, bro. I can't say enough.
Oh, dude, I forgot
none of that made.
The cells aren't connected to anything, Gary.
Back on my mic, dude. Like it's been years since it's been on my mic. So
I bought this
So
shirt
I got the
from
original
Garrett, who
series
played.
represented. What can I say?
nice.
Oh, look at that.
Oh, I love that one.
Yeah,
I'm
I bought this
watching
shirt
old
from
Star Trek now. Like this is reinvigorated a love I thought was just gone. You know?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we're watching Star Trek for our club member stuff, and then I'm on my own time. I'm watching Next Generation again, just like relearning who these characters are. Yeah, for sure.
Robert Meyer Burnett's TNG Blu-rays. I'm going through with my kid. So thank you, Robert. Those things
And they look
rad.
and sound so good.
They're so sexy.
You guys know what the real barometer of this thing is going to be?
He did the special features.
I did all the special features with Roger Lay Jr.
Oh my God, I would watch an entire season of He's Gone. I would watch an entire season of TNG with Rob just doing the commentary. No audio.
You guys know what the real barometer of Picard season 3 is going to be? Is
I
Red Letter
have
Media's
to check
take on
out.
it.
I apologize.
It's okay, Rob. Love you, buddy.
I must bug out, gentlemen.
Later,
Thanks
bro.
for coming on, Rob.
Yeah, I don't know if you
This
guys.
is the most amazing panel ever.
This is great.
We'll write a Klingon opera about this panel.
Good talking to you, Rob.
All right.
See you, Rob. Good to
See
see
you,
you.
Rob.
Yeah, go milk your puppies.
Milk the puppies.
So the real barometer of this is going to be Red Letter Media's take, because they already did a review of the first 2 episodes, I think, and they were kind of cautiously optimistic. But if they come out and they say like, "Hey, this is Star Trek is back," I think you're going to see a big shift in the fan base, where the fan base kind of comes on board. It's like, if Red Letter Media says it's good, then we have to give it a shot.
By the way,
I
Matt,
mean, yeah, you had Robert just being, singing the praises.
Yeah.
And then Dave came along and that leveled things up. Everybody trusts Dave. That's a good ginge right there, even though he doesn't have a soul. And then Drinker came out, right? And then Red Letter Media's first. I think that's all positive. I think people are still, hey, you have every right to be cautious because we've had the rug pulled out from under us all the time. But I don't know. If you don't trust me, listen to Robert or Dave or Drinker.
I mean, we're all in consensus though. That's
we're all
the
like,
crazy
hey, it gets better.
Yeah,
it actually gets better.
Dude, if by the end of this season Doomcock comes out and says I was wrong, it's all over. It's all over.
He'll self-destruct first.
Yeah, I was talking to Mike from Red Letter Media, and we were talking about the season, and he's watching along with the episodes, but I thought he told me I've seen through episode 4, so I'm like, okay, cool, and then I spoiled something.
Oh no,
seen it, right? And he's like, I haven't seen that yet, man. And I went, oh my God, I'm so sorry.
And he never talked to you again.
And this is why Red Letter Media didn't come on the live stream, everyone.
Yeah, they were going to come on, but they don't do live streams no more. So,
hey, another super chat from Yorkshire Geek. Thank you, sir. I would rather Worf have left out mentioning Bane of the Duras family and included father of Alexander instead.
Ooh,
that's a good point.
Like that.
Yeah. I think I mean, there's no problem with Alexander. That's a cool character, right?
Whatever happened to Dax? Wasn't he like married to her?
Dax died, right?
Yeah, well, Jadzia. Yeah.
Well, no.
You probably could have said husband to Dax or whatever. Yeah.
But what was her, the girl from Cube though? Didn't she take up the mantle?
No. Yeah. Oh, did she?
The cutish girl.
Ezri.
Oh, yeah.
No, didn't Ezri hook up with Dr. Bashir?
I think she did.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's right. Because Worf was having the trouble, right?
Yeah.
Nicole DeBoer. That's
she couldn't handle Worf's 2 penises. You know that,
right? She was like, "This chamomile tea is just too much for me. I gotta move on."
Yeah, because Jadzia was out of Bashir's league for so many years, and then once she became Ezri, suddenly she was in Bashir's league, and he went there. So yeah,
I don't know what current that is, but Ditzy. He says, good day to the panel and chat. Awesome job, Terry Matalas. Hope we see a lot more.
That's Australian, right?
Is that Australian?
No.
I don't
know what that is.
India?
Well, we appreciate it, whatever.
I could be wrong.
Whatever it is, thank you.
It's Monopoly.
I just call it Martian pesos when I can't.
Thank you, Martians. Appreciate it.
All right, another super chat real quick. Then I'll let you go. I'll let you continue. Misanthropic Sith.
Not sure if I missed it, but was there an explanation why archaeologist Picard doesn't care about old items or his legacy at the start of the season? That's a great question.
Well, he did have his magnifying glass in the first episode, right?
Well, once you go positronic, you just don't care about old things anymore.
I mean, he still had all the old stuff, but he was like, I think he was trying to let it go because he was starting a new chapter. That was
I don't think he wasn't throwing it away. I think he was relocating it, wasn't he?
Yeah,
he was giving it to Geordi, or at least
giving it to Geordi, and it's something you need to think about.
Well, when you get a hot younger girlfriend like Loris, you just kind of like,
and he just
it's cool,
bails
man.
on her for one.
Yeah,
no,
I
want you to
change
think about
my background.
Think about what he said. I'm not a man who needs a legacy, and then see it in the context of the entire show, because that's what it's setting up. It's
thank you, Gary.
Yeah.
Well, also,
and remember,
so
everything is
really
hyperlinked. Every moment is hyperlinked. Yeah. Nothing is put to waste. So like every moment where you're like, that's interesting, like it's important. Everything's important in this show.
I think it'd be funny to see Loris and Beverly kind of be like, "Oh, you ex-girlfriend versus current girlfriend." That'd be funny.
I thought you were going somewhere else with that.
I wouldn't be opposed to that either.
Nope, not at all, dude. Not at all. Jeremy's in for $4.99. Thank you, Jeremy. He said, "I'm really digging every time Terry joins the talk Trek." Okay, that's the first time, but thank you. Very much appreciate him taking the time to engage with fans. Am I sick and not reading this right, or is it written?
Yes.
Yeah, how many of those bourbons have you? I was going to say, how many bourbons have you swigging back?
Yeah. I'm sorry, Journey's in. Thank you.
How empty is that Jim Beam bottle?
Yeah.
No, there's still there's a good half.
Terry was also on R&B show. So that's probably what they're talking about, because this is his second.
Well, but you guys have the Terry moment at the end of all your videos too.
Oh, that's what he's talking about. I'm sorry. There you go. I'm really sick. I probably shouldn't be here.
Which, by the way, he has a badass arcade, guys, in his house. Like really cool, classic old
Terry
pinball
does,
games.
Yeah.
Oh,
he has an entire room where it's arcade. It's nerd heaven.
Yes.
From Exotic Player. Ooh.
Nice.
Great panel and Trek discussion. Respect all you guys and Terry Matalas. Can I ask Terry what are his favorite TNG episodes? No, you can't. He's gone. I'm sorry, dude.
I'll tweet him, and if you show up on Thursday, we'll get the answer for you.
Yeah, if you ask him on Twitter, he'll probably answer. I mean,
probably.
It's true. Yeah. Joe Cronin. Wow, all-star cast. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, sir. Yeah, you know what? Actually, we'll see. Maybe on the Thursday show, you might get the answer.
Yeah.
Robert Burnett also tweeted. I wasn't going to say anything. I was just watching.
That Rob?
Yeah.
That Rob makes me laugh. I love that guy.
Rob is the best. He's a wild man. He's
John
a wild
Burns,
man.
The Weekly Terry. Wesley and his mom happy in season 1. With season 2, mom makes a powder.
Mom takes a powder.
Takes a powder. Okay. My brain's broken.
Brian's so drunk right now.
Oh my God. So I'm not that drunk. I'm not as too drunk I am, Alex.
How's that liquid meth treating you, Brian?
Listen, man, I drink every single time I record on a podcast. I know what it looks like.
Okay.
Is that all of them, Brian? We'll wrap it up.
No, there's some more. Let me finish them out.
Okay.
Let me struggle through these real quick. Jeremy Snyder, great show. Shane, Brian, and guest Brian. You're feeling better soon. My magical cure is hot and sour soup. Give it a shot. I will. I will try that.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Is that like a Chinese soup? Like sweet and sour soup?
Yeah.
All right. Go ahead, Shane.
Well, just before we go, I know the Salty guys got to go. So listen, thank you guys for coming on, Matt and Alex. If you guys haven't caught the Salty Nerd podcast, they have an absolutely wonderful show. Go check them out over on their channel. Also, they got a new studio. So if you happen to be in Las Vegas for any event, say like a meetup or something like that, they have a great place that you can use to do your show if you're Friday Night Tights. So just to let you guys know.
What?
Appreciate you guys.
Gary, I think he's talking about you, bro.
Oh, yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, Gary, we got a
big invite.
new studio.
Friday Night Tights at the studio.
I heard.
Streaming from it right now.
Yeah,
if you ever want to use it, free of charge, come on over.
I will take you up on that.
Shane will be there on Thursday.
I've got a couple shows I got to do from Vegas since I'll be there for a week.
Well, there you go.
Well, we got a place just for you.
We've got all the fancy equipment you could ever possibly want. Great internet connection. It's all good.
And just mountains of cocaine.
And mountains and hookers. Don't forget.
Well, that'll be the end of my show. It'll be a fun week. Might be entertaining, but that'll be it.
This just in: Salty Nerd Podcast nukes Nerdrotic.
You think quartering drunk tweets in the middle of the night are bad? Wait.
All right. Well, thank you guys. Genuinely, this was an insane show. I cannot believe I got to sit on a panel with the guy who's making Star Trek Season 3 Picard. It was amazing. Shout out to Terry again. He's incredible for even doing that. And the rest of the panelists that have already gone, it's been wonderful chatting with you guys. Gary, it's good to see you again. Hope to see you soon here in Vegas. And stay salty, everybody. Thanks
Later,
for being
Alex.
here. Bye-bye.
He's missing the super chat where someone asked if he was a model. You missed it.
I have to go too. I was actually in the middle of work, a very important video, and I'm like, oh my God, look at this panel. Holy shit.
I know. He was like, Matthew Kadish is on that panel. I got to get on there.
I got to get on. Kadish is there.
Kadish is there.
Yeah.
Well, I got to tell you guys, everybody knows who Gary at Nerdrotic is, but I got to tell you, if you guys are not watching every damn video he puts out, he's literally changing the way everybody thinks. It's beautiful. Please go out and make sure you're watching everything. And
Really
Gary, thank you so much for coming. Please come back
Thanks
again
for having me.
and hang out with us.
Of course. I'll get like everybody here. Like I'm going to get a big Star Trek thing going on my channel, like towards the end of the series. So everybody, single person here who was here and here's now will be invited, and we'll just talk
Everyone
about
hear that?
Star Trek Picard Season 3 and our love for Star Trek Picard Season 3.
Fantastic,
Thanks, guys.
Gary.
It was a
Thanks,
pleasure
brother.
talking to y'all.
Thanks, brother.
Later, man.
Cheers, Gary.
Cheers. Take care.
See, it's a super chat from Son of John. I think everyone is caught up with the battle, Shrike weapon, and the interplay between Picard and Riker. But the big mystery is what was that vision that Jack? Yes. What is the vision that Jack Crusher saw about? That
we didn't talk about that. Nick, what do you think?
I wanted to talk about it, but everyone talks so much.
Well, I mean, I'm kind of thinking, is that somehow related to the life form or entity that's potentially, the center of the nebula cloud or something, or is it communicating him? I mean, obviously you guys know because you've seen more than I have, but that's
a good theory.
That's where I was kind of thinking maybe he's potentially getting visions from that. Maybe, I mean, we saw all those branches and everything coming on the bulkhead behind Seven's head. I'm not sure what the branches are relating to it. And there was a red door and some red clouds and something, I think, as well.
Yeah,
I know somebody in the
what's that?
Someone in the comments section saying, "Oh, red door, is it the guardian of the edge of forever or something?" But I don't necessarily think that's the case.
Yeah, you know what's very interesting to me is it's very reminiscent of actually, I was about to spoil something. Never mind. Go ahead, Shane.
My theory.
I was about to have something up. I'm sorry.
My theory is that Jack has been swapped out from a synth from the commune in the first season, and that vision was from the synthetic Cthulhu out in the space butthole.
Shut your dirty mouth. Shut up.
Well, you know that Terry's good with this imagery. If you go back to 12 Monkeys, do you remember some of the imagery from that show? Lots of red.
Are you saying there's time travel?
I'm not saying there's time travel, but I'm saying that this is definitely very Terry Matalas.
Yes, it is.
Yes. Remember, I'm going to say it again. Literally everything has some kind of significance. Everything is important in this show. Everything is hyperlinked.
Well, there have already been a couple of 12 Monkeys Easter eggs littered throughout the show.
There has been, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and there's still one more to come on that. But if you guys are watching the credits, you notice this week, somebody finally figured it out. There was founders language in the credits, and it's been there since the beginning, since the first episode.
Oh my god, I almost spoiled that.
On those L cars displays. Yeah.
So dude.
Every week,
when you're completely done watching this, go back and watch the credits.
You're going to be blown away. It was all right in front of you the whole time.
JT Cap, what up, Cap? Says, "Hey nerds, $2. Thank you, JT.
Appreciate you, JT."
Yorkshire Geek again. I gave episode 3 a 10 out of 10. Are there 11 out of 10s in the future?
Well, if episode 3 is a 10 out of 10, then they're all 11s, 12s, 13 out of 10s coming forward. So
Yeah, the series does just get better and better.
I mean, that's the thing that's blowing my mind is that, episode 1 was good, episode 2 is better, episode 3 was better. Still, it's like, holy shit! Like, just when you think that this is as good as it just gets a little bit better.
Right?
Yeah, it gets a little bit better. Every episode gets a little better. It's sort of mind blowing.
It does. That's exactly the mind blowing. It's like after each episode, you're like, what the hell else can they possibly do? And then they
yeah.
And then when they do the next thing, you're like, what? Yeah, it's gnarly. Night's Witch. Night's Witch. Thank you. $10. Terry, you are being modest. Let us praise you. Nonetheless, great work with season 3 record. Terry's got. I'm sorry, I missed these super chats while I was here, guys. They were just flying in. I apologize.
Ryan's high on cold medicine right now.
John Burns again. So Terry, the idea of Seven saying to Spock, "Damn you and you green." Oh God.
Your green-blooded interference. Oh, what about eat a ham sandwich?
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate that. John, thank you. Red-headed daft cow. I just like you guys. I know.
That's my fiance.
Yeah.
is that Jude?
That's Jude.
Yeah. She's out getting drunk right now. So,
Kyle Armstrong, is this the ultimate Star Trek reunion? Wow, glad to throw in my 2 cents. We got this group together to talk about the best Star Trek in years. Thank you, Kyle. There's so many. If I missed you guys, please let me know.
Yeah, Brian's like half drunk right now, so it's...
You don't understand. I got really, really sick on Saturday night, and I'm just like, I shouldn't be here, but I'm still here. Astro Nerd Boy dropping $50. This guy is like same thing to the Salty Nerd Show. He's like, thank you.
He's one of our top donators. Yeah,
thank you, awesome. Sir. Awesome panel, and thank you, Terry Matalas, for restoring good Star Trek. It reminds me of how Manny Koto took Enterprise to where I wanted it, only better. As an original fan of Star Trek through 2005, it's a relief to return to good times. Yes. Yeah, it is. It's very similar to Manny Koto, in my opinion.
Well, thank you, Astro Nerd Boy, because I got to tell you, Manny Koto is the only other name I regret not including. We talked about Brandon Braga and Terry being able to make new Trek, but there's also Manny out there. He's making stuff. He could come back to Trek too, and he was fantastic in the final season of Enterprise.
Yeah, he was awesome. I thank Les Moonves for that ending. He's the dickhead that screwed that up.
Yeah.
Notorious hater of all things sci-fi.
Yes.
Amen.
John Burns, for God's sake, can we get some money to that shill, Dave Cullen? Thank you.
Yeah, we need to buy Dave a webcam so he can show his face for once.
I know. You keep telling him, just come on, dude. We are absolutely much uglier than he is, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he used to show his face. I don't know why he stopped.
Yeah, I think he stopped after that one, after his first channel got nuked.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Kevin Carmack. Loving this discussion this season. Thank you, Terry. Please tell me they will put you in charge of Star Trek now. There are so many threads to revisit and stories to tell. I mean, you're right. Go to terrytrek.com and sign the petition.
And honestly, guys, we really need everybody to do it. Right now, we're shy of 5,000 signatures there. And honestly, there's so many people watching this. We got 250,000 views, I think, on the video that's got it in it. And we only got 5,000 views. So just please take a second, go to terrytrek.com. It literally takes like a minute to do. And it helps because we're going to take this. And this is how Strange New Worlds got redone. So what happened first with Strange New Worlds is they did a petition, right? And then they beat up, they didn't beat him up. They harassed Alex at the Comic-Cons about it over and over and over again. So what we need to do is get the petition rocking. And then every Comic-Con from here on out that he attends, we just need to be like, hey, is Terry
it's proof it works.
Star Trek.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, let me clip again. I got distracted. Damn it, Spock. Thank you so much, Terry, for giving my first crutch, Gates McFadden. Oh my God, a superb
Gates McFart. Gates McFart.
Such a beautiful crust lady. Yes, she is gorgeous.
Yeah. I've met her a couple of times at the Star Trek conventions, and she is pure class, man. She's awesome.
And she qualifies for Brian's love crush interest. She's older.
Yeah. Yeah, she's old enough.
Major gilf, right?
I just really need her to get some green body paint going, and it's a win-win for me. All I'm asking for. Hashtag green. All right. What's next here? Oh, Paul for $10. Thank you, Paul. Will there be any references to code of honor? It's time to see what the Lingonians, did I say that right? Lingonians are up to. There's so much potential there. I agree.
There's so many different stories in Trek that we could explore. You know, I think that's the beauty of Star Trek is that there's so many things we can dip into. Even this season goes back to Legacy Trek, and as you see, there's like a little DS9 taste. You know, there's some Voyager stuff. What do you think, Nick?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think any links to Star Trek past always sits pretty well with me. So whether it's that reference to Odo that we got in the last episode with, you know, Worf saying I spoke to somebody who is a man of honor and and we knew it was Odo. Yeah, I mean, hopefully, I think, you know, I know there's the what's the big event that's coming up, the one that with all the fireworks and everything, Founding Day or Federation Day
Federation,
Frontier Day,
Frontier Day. Like, yeah, it would be good to see. I mean, it'd be good to see some you know, familiar faces as part of that, flying the flag for Starfleet. So yeah, I would say bring it on.
And Terry did say Odo makes an appearance in the next episode. So.
Yeah, you know what's funny is, guys, I didn't see it. So I got to go back and take a look. I didn't.
What? He said that?
He said you'll see Odo in the next episode.
He did say that. Yeah.
I know, right? So
maybe it was very deep in the background, perhaps. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. All right. We got another super chat from Night's Witch. Would love to see a series with Shaw as captain. What a great casting character.
Oh, yeah. I'd watch the shit out of that series.
I've watched that so hard. It would put, you know, Todd Stashwick is amazing.
And just hold on, guys. I mean, I know we all keep saying it, but God, he gets so much better, even better.
And you know, he was an Enterprise. He played like a
Vulcan.
Yeah,
that was a Vulcan.
Vulcan. Played a Vulcan, right?
Yeah.
He was probably a shady Vulcan. I take it.
Yes, he was a shady Vulcan. I think. Yeah. Yes. I mean, would you guys agree that our number one on the list of next Star Trek series would be Star Trek Titan versus, say, the Section 31 series or the Starfleet Academy series or anything else they've talked about in the last number of years?
No one cares about Emperor Giorgio doing spy shit.
No one cares
about Shaw
the Academy
and
either.
the Titan.
Yeah. And no one cares about the Academy. No one cares about any of that. Like, it's not good. We need continue.
The only other one I've heard that's interested me, I think, was the notion of a Star Trek Janeway, doing with Janeway what they've done with Picard as a, you know, check in with her in a live action sense, what she's up to.
At the very least, if they're continuing in the 25th century, that's like.
Well, the great thing about Janeway, guys, is that it seems like no matter when she comes onto Star Trek, she always brings that hope and Star Trek ideal with her. Even in Prodigy, it's like it just seeps through the screen. Like, you can't have Janeway in a show without it just screaming, you know, hopeful Star Trek. So it would be good.
I never liked Janeway, though. I never liked Janeway.
Oh, we should have a fight about that later.
Oh my God, man. Yeah. What is wrong with you?
But you know, what we do need to they just need to have Terry do it. So if you're going to do something with Janeway, just make sure he's doing, because he has
if Terry's in control, we know it's going to be. I think we now have complete confidence that it's going to be a good Star Trek.
Right, right.
Wasn't Terry's first job on Voyager?
Exactly.
He was a PA on Voyager.
Yeah, it was.
And he worked on Enterprise too, I think.
He did, yeah.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did on.
That's where That's where they named the planet Matalas Prime.
Yes.
Yes, they did. And you know, for Alex Kurtzman, look, you know, if look at the response here. So what I would say is, look, I don't care if Alex's name's on everything, as long as Terry's making it, and then it's a win-win for everybody. So let's keep that going.
Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely.
Super chat from Mac M. I think what makes this Star Trek feel like Trek is that it doesn't take itself too seriously. Something that has been missing in a lot of recent Trek.
It's a good point.
Totally agree.
I actually think it takes itself very seriously, which is why it's good. It actually considers itself Trek.
But at the same time, they can inject these little moments of levity, which I think just gives it a bit extra heart and soul, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
Yeah, that moment where Picard says, maybe you should call me number one, and then he turns his face.
Yeah.
And that micro expression of him, just like you can tell he's being sarcastic. It was it allows it to shine though, because it's putting more emphasis on the character's movements and facial
even small things like Riker telling Jack, you can call me captain. Right. It's like in reverse a little bit. It's like there's some humor there, but at the same time, it's like totally legit the way Star Trek should be. Like it's professional.
Yeah. Right.
So I love that.
From Cap, big props to Shane. Big props to Shane and Brian. Great stream panel. Thank you, Cap.
Thanks, JT.
Christopher M. Palmer. Thank you for assembling such an incredible panel tonight. Terry appearing was such a great surprise and fun for his fans. Thank you. Remember, with Trek, like politics, it's okay to not agree 100% of the time.
Did you guys notice Terry had no interest in coming on until I joined the panel?
Well, in fairness, Matt, we were all on before you, so I don't know what does it count.
Well, it wasn't until I hopped on where Terry was like, "I got to set the record straight here. I got to come on."
I think it's the first time we've had Nick on, so it might be because of him.
Because of Nick.
Yeah.
Yep. Sporky News Podcast. This is a crazy panel. Well done, Popcast Unleashed. Listen, guys. By the way, so I saw a couple of chats saying you guys should do that every month. Do this every Monday. We do this every Monday.
Yeah, we're here.
You're just seeing it for the first time. So every Monday at 2, my friend.
We can't promise to deliver a showrunner every Monday, but
they said you should have Terry on every Monday.
Oh yeah, I would. Good luck. Yeah,
yeah. Why wouldn't we want to do that?
That'd be awesome if we could.
Yeah.
We're always asking him. You'd be surprised. As for Nerdrotic, $5. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I felt bad when he was on and his phone's ringing in his office, and I'm thinking, geez, I hope that's not Paramount CBS ringing him to give him the next Star Trek show, and he's on here talking with us instead, and he's missed the call.
Yeah,
he was like, I don't even know I had a landline. As for Nerdboy, multi-part episodes of Enterprise Season 4 would work better for me than just single episode stories. It reduces cost by reusing sets over 2+ episodes. That's true. Picard, this final season of Picard, was shot on a much lower budget than other Star Trek, and I'm assuming part of that is, they are on the same sets a lot. So,
yeah. And don't forget what they're doing with Strange New Worlds now, using that whole AR wall technology. Where they can just put up backgrounds behind them. There's a hell of a lot you can do with that. And they're achieving some pretty amazing results. I mean, that whole engineering set in Strange New Worlds uses that AR wall technology, and it looks great.
Yeah, it looks good. Awesome. Although I feel like I can still tell when it's there. Like, it looks amazing, except for when it's there, all of a sudden I can see it.
You start looking for it.
You can't watch anything that's not in 4K. So
I mean, they can just start using TikTok filters for all the de-aging stuff.
Little puppy faces and like red eyes, and
all the alien makeup. Just use the TikTok filters.
Riker has dog ears.
Yeah.
From Chuck A, TNG fanatic for $2. Terry Trek. Hey Nick.
Hey Chuck, how you doing?
that was ironic.
Chuck's one of my longest supporters. He's one of my members on my channel. He's a great bloke. Thank you, Chuck.
Thank you, Chuck.
From the Swamp People, never heard of most of you before today, except Gary. Okay, that makes sense.
Well, thanks.
The Swamp
but are you liking it?
But I'm all in now. Amazing group here today.
Oh, there we go.
There you go.
Come on back next week. What's cool is if you do like this format, you've got all of Nick's videos. You've got us on Mondays and Thursdays. You got Salty Nerd who does a very salty show Saturday morning. So you could just get us all week long.
Salty Saturdays. Brian's always on there, whether he's sick or not.
Whether I'm sick or not, I show up. You know what's funny is
usually on liquid meth.
Liquid meth. If you combine all of our channels, I think there's something to watch live almost every single day.
Yeah, we're now doing Tuesday live streams on the Salty Nerd from our studio.
There you go.
Oh, nice. Yeah. There you go.
Here's a question. Christopher Mays, crystalline entity, am I warm or cold?
Ooh,
dude, I would love to answer you, but I can't.
Hey, I want to ask you guys. So at the center of the nebula, is it V'ger? Could it be?
That'd be wild.
Well, we know there's a gravity well, so
or is it the space whales on the big cigar ship?
Oh man.
You know what the problem with Trekkies are too? It's like everyone puts out these awesome theories, and like you can't comment on them when you've seen it. You're like,
It's really hard to make videos when you know what's going to happen because you feel disingenuous.
Right. You can't. We usually make theory videos, Nick. I don't know if you probably just found our stuff, but usually we do a lot of theory videos, and so.
When you know it all, it's hard to theorize when you know it all. Yeah.
And we would have like 4 or 5 big theory videos that we're like really excited about. And you're like, oh, let's see which one's right. And now we're like, well, we can't make a theory video because we've seen it. Most people know we've seen it. So whatever we put out there, if we're wrong, we're just gonna be lying.
It's not right.
Yeah. You know? And if we tell the truth, then we're spoiling it.
I guess it's bittersweet because you're right. One of the fun parts of being part of fandom is that, what does this mean? What's coming up next? You know, everyone's sort of bouncing ideas off each other and kind of speculating as to what this might be or what that might be. And I envy you guys having seen all 10 episodes, but then again, you're deprived of that enjoyment as well, I guess, that speculation.
And we're deprived of the community theory crafting because usually I'm waist deep in the theory crafting and Reddit and everything. I'm really enjoying it. Now I'm like, I can't even get close to it. James Foreman for $2. Doesn't the strike look like a Sona ship? What is Sona?
From Insurrection.
Oh.
It's probably reused from Insurrection.
I don't think it does.
It does a little bit. It's not as sharp.
It looks more like the Romulan mining vessel to me.
I hate that vessel.
Yeah.
And just to point out, if you guys want more stuff from Terry, so we've got on Sundays, Brian is going to set it up. I don't know when we're going to start launching this, but we're going to have interviews with, and this is long form, like Joe Rogan style interviews with Terry Matalas, with Todd Stashwick, Captain Shaw himself. We've got Chris Monfett, another executive producer on which we're going to have on Picard season 3. That's going to be coming out. And so like every Sunday, we're trying to have these like big long form interviews so you guys can get as much information about what's going on. And hopefully we'll have some other actors coming forward too.
Yeah. When do you interview Will Wheaton?
Yeah.
He would do it, but we would get into a fight because we got in a fight with him on Reddit a bunch of years ago. He was
the first time we met Will Wheaton. We didn't get along.
We didn't get along very well, but we'd have Will on. We'd have Will on.
Yeah, the second he realized who it was, he'd be like, "I'm not gonna do this, and I'm out. I'm not." No. Real quick, John Burns for $2.79. I see a red door and I want it painted black.
Ooh, nice.
No colors anymore.
That's all the super chats. I'm pretty sure I didn't miss any.
Well, good. Do you guys have anything else that you want to talk about? I know we've had a nice long one here. Nick, you're into your mid-morning. Any last thoughts?
Oh, look, as we said before, each episode of Picard season 3 just seems to be getting better and better. I can't wait for episode 4. And then from what you guys have said, as it progresses, it improves even more when we thought it couldn't improve anymore. So look, I'm just so stoked that the show is of such an amazing quality that obviously we're all loving at the moment. And, my hat goes off to Terry Matalas and awesome, the fact that he jumped into the chat with us all today. How great was that? I think that was a highlight, clearly.
Yeah, it was awesome.
And Matt, how about you, Mr. You got everybody? You're the Pied Piper of Terry Matalas now.
Well, I just want to say that it was a pleasure meeting Nick and sharing a panel with him. It's good to meet you. And Shane and Brian, you are both incredibly welcome for me attracting Robert Meyer Burnett, Gary from Nerdrotic, and Terry Matalas, and the Critical Drinker, and Dave Cullen to your stream.
Right.
You owe all your success to me.
Yes.
So you're welcome.
All right. Well, tomorrow I'll buy you dinner. So that'll be
That's right. You're going to be in Vegas tomoror at our studio. Yeah, I can't wait.
So Shane gets to go to Vegas and hang out with Matt, and I have to work all week. Thanks, guys. Thanks for the invite. Appreciate it.
You got invited. You don't like to come out here.
No, that's not accurate. I like coming out there. I just don't like staying out there.
There you go.
So if you want to catch more, make sure you check out Sci-Finatics, right? Sci-Finatics. Yeah, there it is. I love that logo. Nick has the best takes, the best breakdowns. He's really killing it. And please go check him out. Subscribe to him and do that. Salty Nerd Podcast. You can check them out too, of course. And we love them. Love you guys so much. Thank you for coming on. And hopefully you guys will be back again in the future.
Thank you for having us.
Love to. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, we always try to make it onto your streams, guys, because you're so good to us.
Oh, well, right back at you, brother. And for the rest of you guys, make sure you come back on Thursday. We'll have another breakdown of the latest episode of Star Trek Picard Season 3, and then we'll do more then.
Yeah, listen, Maria, I didn't see your super chat. It's probably because my brain's not working properly, but let me know what it was, and I'll list it. I'm sorry.
Was it in the back?
I don't know. I missed it, I guess. I'm so sick.
Can't miss Maria's. Maria with T and Telly, she gave a super chat. Make sure you check her out. She has a great channel.
Yeah, Maria's awesome. All right, guys. Love you guys. We'll be back on Thursday. Don't forget, Thursday, live show, Unleashed. Unleashed live at noon 30 on Thursday. Shane will be joining us.
It might be from our studio.
She should be joining me from Matt's studio, which is new and fresh. And we have our at 6 a.m. this Thursday morning will be our review of this week's. So don't forget that on the main channel, Popcast.
Take care, everybody. Have a good week.
Where's that file at? I gotta find the file.